I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you here tonight to the Town Board meeting of September 28th, 2016. As always, we're pleased to have you with us, whether you've joined us here in person or whether you're watching either on cable channel 12, our community access cable channel, or our YouTube channel, streaming live on YouTube. However you're with us, we appreciate having you. And so that you can best participate with us, if you're here in the room, the full agenda and all supporting materials are in the folder in the rear of the room on the table. If you're streaming us live, you can pick up all of the same material from the Town of Brighton webpage, townofbrighton.org, and you can follow along with the same material that we have. In just a moment, we'll have a presentation and then go into our open forum. But first I want to ask everybody to please stand for the pledge. I'm going to ask Council Member Louise Novros to lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get into the business portion of our meeting, we do have a couple of presentations tonight. And first, I am going to invite, I think, Ron, are you going to lead us off, or Everett? We have a presentation, or Cassidy, okay. We're going to have a presentation from our Sustainability Oversight Committee. We've had interns here this year. They've worked on a project very hard, really to look at our, our carbon footprint. And so they're going to make a presentation to us this evening. I do want to say, those of you that have been here at our meetings, although we do have some paper with us tonight, you'll notice that for the last year plus, we have been trying to be as paperless, paper-free as we can be at our meetings. We have saved, I think it's fair to say, well over 10,000 sheets of paper. I don't know how that translates into trees. And I do also want to note that we just last week cut the ribbon on our new electric vehicle charging station out here in front of Town Hall in the library side of the building. So we're very pleased about that. But Cassidy, come on up, and we're looking forward to your presentation. I think
it's up there, so we should be good.
Maybe we'll go out in the audience. Well, go ahead.
So it doesn't matter.
Go ahead. I don't know how much we.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Cassidy Putney, and thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm a recent graduate of RIT's public policy program. And last September, I joined the SOC as their intern to help them complete their greenhouse gas inventory. And in January of this year, I became the Department of Public Works intern. So I had other projects as well, but I mostly focused on the greenhouse gas inventory report. And in May, I graduated, and I also finished this report. And then I took a position at the Children's Agenda as their advocacy coordinator downtown. And so that's what I've been busy up to the last couple of months. So bear with me. I just was revisiting all this data the last week or two to try to, revisit. So
that's another great group. I was very pleased to hear that you had joined them.
Yeah, I'm really happy. It's a really wonderful group. And so the SOC members, luckily, are here. So if I miss something important or I make a mistake, hopefully they will correct me. So bear with me with that. So the presentation tonight is just going to be very high level about some of the data and my findings and some of my own recommendations for next steps. So the greenhouse gas inventory was conducted because we are a climate smart community. And climate smart communities is a network of New York State communities that are engaged in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving climate resilience. And as you can see, there are 10 pledge elements in climate smart communities. We've completed number 1 in 2014. And my presentation tonight is about the progress of pledge element number 2 and how we spent approximately 10 months or so gathering data and analyzing it and then creating the greenhouse gas inventory report. So the inventory was conducted in two sections, municipal operations and community. And the way that I always thought about it when I would get confused is, what does the town pay for? Okay, that is municipal operations. Everything else is considered community. So each of these sections utilize a different tool. As you can see, municipal operations used Climate Smart Communities greenhouse gas accounting tool, and community used the local greenhouse gas inventory tool, the community module. So they used different tools, they collected different data, and in the initial analysis, they had different types of data. And so in the end, I ultimately took the usable data from the two tools, put them together into an Excel spreadsheet that I used to compare and manipulate the data myself. The complicating factor of having two different inventories was that the data in each was collected in slightly different ways. And you can see that that is illustrated by the difference in what is called emission sources up there. Municipal operations emissions reflected the energy source itself specifically, and the community emissions reflected part of the community and then also some type of energy sources. So when I summarized them together into one report, I was able to extract just the particular data related to the energy sources, and I put that all together. And you'll see this on the next slide. So on this slide, you can see that these are the high-level inventory results. This includes both municipal operations and the community greenhouse gas emissions. And while the inventory was conducted in 2015, 2016, the most up-to-date data available at the time for all the sources was 2014. So for this inventory and then any type of documentation moving forward, like a climate action plan, the baseline year would be 2014. So as you can see, the annual emissions for the whole town is 436,184 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. And based on the 2010 census data that I used, Brighton's population of about 36,000 people or so, it was calculated that the per capita emissions are 12 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year, or 53,293 kilowatt hours per year. And so in terms of very general costs, in terms of the kilowatt hours per capita per year, at the average residential price of a kilowatt hour, which is currently in Rochester 10.7 cents per kilowatt hour, in the town of Brighton, the costs are approximately $5,718 per year per capita. And on the right-hand side, you can see the pie chart shows vehicle emissions account for almost half of all of the emissions for the town. So before I move to the next slide, I just want to mention that all of these slides are just a hint at the detail to which the greenhouse gas inventory report goes into, and that all this information and much more is in the report and can be made available to you. So I understand there probably will be some questions, but in the interest of time, I would be more than happy to answer them at another time offline, or we could come together for a separate discussion to really delve into the details if you guys have any questions. It's also important to note that I was not the only person working on this. Greg Shinneman from U of R did mostly the community data collection. So I'm much more familiar with the town data and how it was collected, and he's much more familiar with the community work. All right. So because you are the town board, I thought it would be beneficial for you to see a snapshot of how the municipal operations inventory breaks down. The chart on the left shows greenhouse gas emissions by department, with operations makes sense having the greatest emissions because they have all of the trucks, plows, and other really energy-intensive vehicles in their department. And on the right, you can see the general financial breakdown of how money is being spent in relation to greenhouse gas emissions by department and by source. And this financial data was collected via invoices that the town gave to me. And for me, this graph is particularly useful when you're looking for the biggest potential cost reductions for planning in the future. So based on this inventory and my findings, I recommend the following next steps. The first would be to look at all of the data and decide where do you want to be in 5, 10, 20 years when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions and energy usage in this community. These goals would be used as information and to inform the policy and practices changes that need to achieve the goals. That could be outlined in something like a climate action plan. And doing these two things would complete the second of the pledge elements for climate smart communities. And if you look back at the pledge elements of all 10, the climate action plan would actually weave the other 8 elements into the climate action plan. So when you would implement the plan, you would actually complete all 10 all at once. And so I think it's really important to note also the collaboration of the comprehensive plan whenever possible, just because there is so much work being done and resources being used to be, to put forth this incredible comprehensive plan. And I don't know, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that they have, sustainability sector, and they talk about a greenhouse gas inventory. And so this data alone could really inform some of the choices that are being made. And together, working with them would make the process, I think, significantly more feasible and easier moving forward. And so with that, if there's any quick questions, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Cassidy. I really appreciate those efforts. Do any of the board members, Chris?
A question, Cassie, you did the streetlights, and obviously that's a very large component of our greenhouse gases and such. Does that include both the districts or the town-owned streetlights alone? Some are owned by RG&E and we pay for them, but others are owned by the town.
So in the community inventory, the streetlights that are not paid for by the town are included in that inventory, and then the town was just the streetlights that we pay for as the town. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think our districts.
Oh, it is?
It
Okay.
includes both the districts and thank you.
And since you asked about lighting, Chris, a couple thoughts. One, Tim and I have been working, and this has been a long-standing process, working with RG&E as it relates to the potential implementation of LED lights. And I have to say, and this is not coming as any surprise if there's anybody from RG&E out there listening, we've been very disappointed in their lack of effort as they have worked with us. We learned, for example, as we testified at their most recent rate hearing, well, actually leading up to that rate hearing, we had a series of meetings with RG&E, and we learned that although they had, they've been talking with us about when they could implement LED potentially, we learned that they had submitted tariffs and then withdrawn them, but those tariffs would not have supported our historic landmark lighting fixtures in Brighton. So we were and continue to be dismayed at the lack of follow-through on the part of RG&E, which led us to testify at their most recent rate hearing in opposition to a rate increase. We don't believe, certainly if their service to us and frankly their inability to document that the capital portion of the rates that they have charged us, which we don't believe have been applied into the lighting system for the benefit of the stability of the system. We get calls every day from our neighborhoods with more lights out, and that's very disturbing. Unfortunately, the PSC didn't see it our way and granted a rate increase to RG&E, but the LED lighting is certainly something we've pursued. However, I want to ask, because Tim and I have had a little brief discussion, and Mike Guyon, our town engineer, as well, and I don't know how familiar you are with it, but this most recent study that suggests some health issues with respect to LED lighting. I'm not sure if you've seen that, Cassidy, but I believe at a high enough wattage, there's some concerns have been raised. Ron, I see you. And I don't know whether this is the time to address that, but again, it's an important issue, but we want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure we do save money, because going to LED would save money. It would obviously reduce the greenhouse gases, but we want to make sure we don't do it at the expense of other, the health of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from?
Does becoming sustainable, is the lighting, especially the outdoor lights at night, does it become dimmer? Because I was driving through my neighborhood over here in Roseline last night, and all the lights seemed yellow, a much lower intensity and a yellow color.
Nothing has changed.
You see, it
No,
seems-
no. It's
I'm not an expert on lighting, but I
just
don't think so.
RG&E's, I mean, those are the lights that have been there. Mike, if you can come up, just so folks at home can hear, this is Mike Guyon, our town engineer.
Thanks for hearing me out. Real quick, like Bill said, we haven't changed out any lights at this point. The LED lights are much, you can vary the lighting much more easy than the incandescents that we have now. So they'll be much more adaptable. So, it's just a matter of being able to put them in, getting them on the tariff. So it'll be a much better light fixture.
Any other questions? Well, Cassidy, let me come up there for a second.
Oh,
But don't go far. We really appreciate the work you've done. This is a very important project. The Climate Smart pledge that we've taken as a town is important. It's important to us financially, but it's important to us, obviously, from the goal of becoming a more sustainable community, and we really appreciate the work that you've done. So I want to give you this certificate. It says, the Certificate of Appreciation, the Town of Brighton proudly recognizes and thanks Cassidy Putney for her service as a cooperative member of the Sustainability Oversight Committee and all her efforts in the town's greenhouse gas emissions inventory project. On behalf of the Town of Brighton, we thank you for your volunteerism and your commitment to our community. And I've signed it, and I've signed it with my gratitude.
thank you so much.
We do have certificates as well for Greg Shinneman and also for, Mary Willis. And I'm going to give these to Mike, I believe, and Mike will make sure that they get those. But we really do. We appreciate the work that all of you did. Thanks to the Sustainability Oversight Committee. This is a committee, these are some serious people with a level of technical expertise on the issues that are important as it relates to sustainability. You're a tremendous asset to us. Mike, your work with them, and I would note too that Chris Warner is the town board liaison to the committee, so thank you for your work.
And it's certainly my pleasure to work with you folks, and we'll see you, is it next week?
We changed it up.
I'll check my calendar. 2 weeks.
Okay. Tonight, the town board, the town board will be receiving from myself and from Finance Director Suzanne Zaso the tentative 2017 town budget. For those of you that have been following us for a long time, this is something that we do every year. It's something we make a point of doing very publicly, and it's also a point that we make a point of doing and completing a process before each year's elections. We think it's important that the community sees the work that our finance director does, our budget director, and is prepared to take all of these items into account. So we're going to start tonight. We each have a copy of this tentative budget. And I will give first my annual budget message, and then Finance Director Suzanne Zaso will make a presentation in detail, a PowerPoint. We'll switch out Cassidy's PowerPoint and get Suzanne's up and running. But to Brighton residents and taxpayers, tonight, Town of Brighton Finance Director Suzanne Zaso and I present the 2017 Town of Brighton tentative operating budget to the Brighton community. For 2017, we are proposing a tentative budget with a town-wide tax rate increase of 0.45%. Now, I want to stress that's the town-wide tax rate. We'll be talking about the districts in a moment. But that increase equates to a property tax increase of $2.52 for a house valued at $100,000. Now, your own tax rate may increase more, depending largely on special districts such as sewer, water, fire, sidewalk snow plowing, and refuse districts, among others, that apply to your property. But this small increase reflects our continued efforts to balance fiscal control with high-quality services. We report to you, the taxpayers, and this message is intended to give an overview of this budget and exactly how we have managed to balance those two goals. Again, fiscal control and quality services. After this message, our finance director will present a more detailed summary of the budget. Over the past 5 years, we've spoken in our annual budget message and elsewhere about the fiscal challenges faced by local governments in New York State. In many ways, these challenges are similar to the challenges faced by households right here in Brighton. Households see costs rising for important items like food, insurance premiums, college tuition, health insurance, and the like. These rising costs are often not matched by increases in salaries or other sources of family income, like interest on bank accounts. That disparity between rising expenses and revenues, income, that are flatter, squeeze many families and their ability to continue to provide basic necessities, much less the additional items that make life more enjoyable. In developing this budget for the town of Brighton in 2017, we deal with similar challenges. Costs of essential services, public safety, employee medical insurance premiums, infrastructure maintenance continue to rise, often faster than the rate of inflation. While our revenues are limited, based on continued incremental but small increases in tax base in Brighton, along with the impact of the New York State tax cap. In 2017, the state tax cap is set at 0.68% before adjustments, far below the actual inflation rate for health care costs, wages and salaries, and many other costs of government. After a close review, we believe that the tax cap is set at a level and operates in a manner that can prevent local municipalities like Brighton that have slow internal growth in tax base from providing essential services over the longer term, not to mention services that go beyond the essential to support the kind of quality of life that Brighton residents expect in their community. I've advocated for amendments to the tax cap, and I will continue to do so, along with the New York State Association of Towns, to assure that the cap continues to provide necessary fiscal discipline to prevent excessive property tax increases, while still providing the opportunity to maintain critical infrastructure and meet community needs and goals as articulated by yourselves. In Brighton, we know how important the services that town government provides are to our residents, to our business owners, and to our visitors. We're committed to maintaining that high level of services. Whether it's the best highway snow removal in the Rochester area, year-round lawn and leaf pickup from the front of your home, or the Brighton Memorial Library, honored as the best library in the Rochester area, just to name a few of the special services here in Brighton. Maintaining those high-quality services while still protecting the fiscal stability of our town, rather than being bound to an artificial number that does not accurately reflect the community priorities of local residents, will be our priority in this budget. Tonight, we affirm to you that the 2017 tentative town budget not only maintains the fiscal stability of the town of Brighton, it also maintains and even enhances Brighton's high level of service that we all find so important to our enjoyment of this community. The development of the town budget begins each spring when department heads begin to prepare a department-level budget for each of their departments. Departments also prepare 3-year capital improvement plans for capital expenditures and other major expenses, specifying how those capital items are proposed to be funded. The Finance Department reviews those department-level capital requests and develops a 3-year capital improvement plan, or CIP. That CIP is reviewed by the Budget Review Task Force and the town's Finance and Administrative Services Committee, chaired by Jason DePonzio, before being publicly reviewed and approved by the town board. The New York State Comptroller recommends that municipalities prepare a CIP so that they can take a long-term perspective on spending for major infrastructure efforts, for equipment and vehicles, typically some of our largest non-personnel expenses. The town of Brighton does this every year, and we've been doing so for many, many years, each time taking a 3-year perspective to plan for governmental needs in advance. After approval of the capital improvement plan, the approved capital expenditures from the 2017 portion of the plan were incorporated into department budget submissions for further review as part of the overall budget review process. The town board held 2 budget workshop meetings at which each department presented its budget request publicly to the town board. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee of the town board reviewed the budget, and the town board also held a 3rd budget workshop prior to this submission. Although there has been significant public review and input to this budget already prior to its submission, it's important to note that submission tonight of this 2017 tentative budget does not end the public review process. Far from it. Although town law requires only 1 budget hearing on the tentative budget, this year again, the town board will hold 2 such hearings at town board meetings on October 13th and 26th at 7:00 p.m. right here, Town Hall. Copies of the tentative operating budget are available for review in the town clerk's office, in the Brighton Memorial Library, and online at townofbrighton.org. As our meeting is tonight, those 2 budget hearings will be televised live and rebroadcast on cable channel 12, and they can be streamed on the town's webpage. Comments to the tentative budget can be submitted at either of the 2 public hearings, but they can also be submitted by email to the town clerk at daniel.amon@townofbrighton.org, and those comments submitted by email or by traditional mail will be included in the public record of these hearings. Because the budget is intended to reflect the needs and the priorities of the Brighton community, we gratefully acknowledge the efforts of the volunteer members of the Budget Review Task Force, made up of Brighton residents with interest and expertise in financial matters. Again this year, the task force engaged in a detailed review of the town's 2017 through 2019 capital improvement plan before it was approved by the town board. Independent ratings continue to affirm the fiscal strength of the town of Brighton. The State Comptroller's fiscal stress monitoring system for municipalities continues to rate the town of Brighton highly, both on fiscal score, which focuses on the internal financial strength of the town, and our environmental score, which considers outside factors affecting the town's financial strength. Moody's, the highly regarded national debt rating agency, rates Brighton's debt at a very high quality AA2, one of the highest ratings of any municipality in New York. Our independent auditor also audits the town's financial statements each year and finds that they've been prepared in accordance with the Government Accounting Standards Board requirements. I mentioned it before, but one of the most significant challenges that we face in preparing our budget is continued slow growth in our tax base. We continue to address this issue in several ways. With the development of new projects in Brighton or the redevelopment of existing properties, when it's done in a manner that does not damage, negatively impact our residential neighborhoods, that development has a positive impact on our tax base. However, much of the recent development in Brighton and throughout the Rochester area has been in the area of tax-exempt educational and medical facilities or tax-advantaged projects with commuta exemptions, which limits the positive impact of those developments on town taxes. In 2016, Brighton's tax base growth, the increase in assessed value of taxable real property, was only 0.77%. So it was positive, but not as much as we'd like. As noted last year, the development of the reserve continues to provide new options for residential living in Brighton and contributes to this increase in assessed valuation. However, the tax benefits of the reserve are severely diminished by the application of New York State's condominium tax break, which mandates that condominium properties be taxed at what is often a 50% or greater discount to their fair market value. This unfair discount, originally mandated to protect New York City apartment dwellers from being forced out of their units when buildings were converted to condominium ownership, means that other taxpayers must pay more to offset this subsidy. Obviously, that was a situation that applied to new construction and applied to New York City. It has no application, no relevance to modern development here in Brighton, and I continue to urge the state legislature to consider changes in the condominium tax break to protect communities like Brighton from its unfair impact. Fairness in tax assessment in all elements is important, and Brighton takes a professional approach to property tax challenges, seeking to resolve matters wherever possible, but recognizing that excessively low valuation claims simply pass the tax burden on to other taxpayers. For that reason, the town will conduct a town-wide tax assessment update in 2017 and 2018 to ensure that taxes are allocated fairly among taxpayers and different types of properties. Much of the cost of this revaluation will come from town reserves allocated for this purpose, and you're going to hear more from Suzanne as she presents on the budget. As I've noted in my budget message each year as supervisor, we, the taxpayers of Brighton, continue to be negatively impacted by tax incentives given by the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency, COMITA, without local approval, and in some cases, without thorough analysis of whether net new jobs are being created or retained as a result of these tax incentives. Frankly, I'm not optimistic that the recent turmoil at COMITA and the change in leadership of Monroe County Economic Development will change the fundamental manner in which COMITA does business, making many decisions in closed review, ignoring input from local municipalities and school boards, and failing to do hard economic analysis of the net impact of projects that receive COMITA handouts. What do I mean by net impact? We hear, for example, a hotel is coming to this area and is going to create X number of jobs. That analysis completely fails to examine the impact of those new rooms being subsidized by our tax dollars on room nights at other nearby hotels that may not be subsidized by COMITA. We rob Peter to pay Paul when we take jobs from one hotel or one retail store or other types of businesses and take them to another with these tax incentives. Tax incentives to businesses should be coupled with local labor requirements and analysis of the creation of new living wage jobs. Again, development projects that are consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and do not put excessive burdens on our environment, infrastructure, or services are essential to enhancing our tax base. However, projects that do not pay their fair share of the cost of local government services and are based on unsupported claims of job creation are ultimately a drain on our resources and prevent scarce economic development dollars from being used to support projects that provide real long-term growth to our community. We've seen that here recently, just at the most recent Comita meeting, a major manufacturing project in another community for the construction of rail equipment was approved. That's exactly, the I in County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency means industrial. And I'm not suggesting that only industrial projects make sense. But that's the kind of project that brings new, high-paying jobs to the Rochester area. The next hotel or other service-type facility that comes to the Rochester area, we need to look very closely. We, as a local government, need to have input into that process so that those tough questions are being answered as to whether real jobs that pay the kind of wages that a family needs to support themselves are being generated by that development. Now, I also mentioned that much of the new development in the area, and Brighton is no exception, is coming from the tax-exempt sector. Brighton has taken the lead in making sure that these tax-exempt organizations, like the University of Rochester, that provide valuable services to the community and create many new jobs, but also impact the need for government services, also pay their fair share towards providing those services. This administration has used incentive zoning to generate long-term funding support from not-for-profit organizations that are building in Brighton. The University of Rochester has a long-term plan to develop its South Campus between East River Road and Crittenden Road in West Brighton. Each new building will generate significant amenity payments to the town, indexed to future inflation, so long as the university remains tax exempt, thanks to the incentive zoning agreement that the town negotiated with the university. And for those of you that have been out East River Road, you'll see that imaging building that's been under construction will be opening quite soon, and with that opening, that's the first new building that the town will receive these benefits, which are computed on a per square foot basis and will, as I said, continue on indefinitely. This is a significant enhancement to our revenue base at a time when it is so important that all institutions, businesses, and residential taxpayers pay their fair share. Jewish Senior Life, which is expanding its Winton Road campus through the use of incentive zoning, has also signed an incentive zoning amenity agreement under which it will pay over $40,000 to the town each year, again, adjusted for future inflation, starting in 2017. Incentive zoning has played a major role in allowing Brighton to expand its park system, including most recently the new Brickyard Trail that opened in June. And these significant incentive zoning amenity payments from otherwise tax-exempt businesses are one more way that Brighton is using incentive zoning for the benefit of Brighton taxpayers. Brighton is a leader in the use of incentive zoning in the state. We've done so for over 20 years. Our entire park system and the enjoyment that residents see, whether it's Meridian Center, Corbett's Glen, or our new Sandra Frankel Nature Park and the Brickyard Trail, can be traced, at least in part, to this use of incentive zoning. Now, property tax payments are the largest source of town revenues, but they're not the only source. We receive revenue from mortgage and sales tax, fees for programs and services, including fees and revenues generated from intermunicipal agreements, and from miscellaneous sources, such as interest income. Sales tax revenues are based on retail sales throughout Monroe County. And while those revenues have exceeded projections thus far in 2016, we're taking a conservative estimate of sales tax growth for 2017, mindful that the Rochester area economy continues to grow slowly. Mortgage tax revenues are the most volatile source of town funding, tied to the economic and home building cycles, as well as interest rate cycles that dramatically affect both home sales and mortgage refinancings. Mortgage tax receipts have been relatively stable and growing during the past 2 years, and they have exceeded projections thus far in 2016. We are, however, continuing to take a conservative approach, partly because the Federal Reserve has telegraphed the likelihood of higher interest rates in 2017, which may dampen refinancing activity. We have estimated a modest increase in mortgage tax revenues in 2017 based on those continuing strong results, but we are mindful that external forces can, and certainly have in the past, caused outsized increases or decreases in mortgage tax revenue. Interest income for the town continues to be negligible, more than 95% below peak levels of more than 10 years ago. Although offset by, again, significant decreases in the interest expense on town borrowing, this loss of interest income continues to be a drag on town revenues. Even if interest rates begin to rise, it seems highly unlikely that we will see a return to interest revenues approaching historic levels anytime soon. But again, working with the finance director, we will be exploring new steps to find safe ways to enhance interest income to make sure that our taxpayers get the most benefit from money we have on hand. As always, our town financial staff will monitor these sources of income throughout the year to ensure that revenues will meet or exceed budgeted expectations and that we will not face unexpected shortfalls before year end. Of course, the reason that building revenue sources is so important to maintaining our financial strength is that expenses continue to rise, in many cases at a rate far above the inflation rate. Personnel costs are the largest expense for the town of Brighton and for most local governments. Wage and salaries will continue to grow at a rate significantly above the rate of inflation, and employee and retiree health insurance premiums, over which the town has limited control, will rise even faster. Contributions to the retirement system for town retirees will rise less than the rate of inflation. But here again, these expenses will be rising in 2017 after 3 years of declines, and they remain at historically high levels. Now, retirement system costs are set by the state. The town government does not have any control over those state-mandated contributions. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, although this tentative budget anticipates a very small tax rate increase below the rate indicated by the state tax cap formula, this town-wide tax rate increase, that is, I do anticipate that an external factor affecting our district budgets will mean that this year, for the first time since the state tax cap was established, the town's overall budget, including those special districts, will exceed the tax cap. In 2012, the town of Brighton considered 3 proposals to provide fire service in West Brighton after the former department serving the area was unable and unwilling to provide emergency service at an appropriate level, either alone or in partnership. Accordingly, the town sought proposals from other fire departments and selected the Rochester Fire Department, whose proposal not only provided the highest level of service, but was also significantly less expensive than either the Henrietta Fire District or the Brighton Fire District that also submitted proposals. The contract for services with the Rochester Department is currently up for renewal, and while at this point we don't have exact costs for 2017, we do anticipate that the increase will be significant and significant enough to cause the calculation for the state tax cap to exceed the tax cap limit. The level of service provided by the Rochester Fire Department remains high, and that was noted again by an independent source, the Insurance Service Office, a fire rating service, which raised the level of service in West Brighton to the second highest level possible, reflecting the enhanced level of services provided by the Rochester Fire Department. In 2016, we added services that enhanced Brighton's quality of life. Expanded code enforcement and vacant property efforts have begun to bear fruit, and they will continue. Police body cameras help ensure that both our highly professional police officers and the community have a level of confidence that they will be protected because their interactions will be recorded. Our new leaf vacuum system will make its debut this fall, and we expect it will enhance our leaf pickup this season. I continue to receive numerous compliments on the Brickyard Trail, which opened in late June. The Brickyard Trail has been selected as a finalist for a prestigious award from the Rochester Community Design Center and clearly is viewed by our residents as an enhancement to the quality of life in Brighton. The 2017 budget has enhancements that may be less visible, but no less important. We've restored additional overtime services for leaf removal and added staff support so our highly trained sewer department can devote even more of their efforts to maintaining the sewer system and respond to sewer emergencies. As noted before, we're funding the revaluation of properties in Brighton so that all property owners will know that their properties are being assessed equally, accurately, and fairly. Finally, we'll be replacing a major piece of sewer infrastructure near Blossom Road and 590 to ensure that our sewer system can withstand a major weather event. We welcome your input always as to ways to further enhance Brighton's quality of life, acknowledging that sometimes limited financial resources mean that we must take a measured approach to any new opportunities presented to us. Finally, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Brighton's new budget director, Roger Salmons. Roger's here in the front row. Roger replaces Andrew Robinson, who you've seen in the past several years giving the budget presentation that Suzanne will be giving. Andrew served the town ably for about 5 years and left only because he felt the call of family. He felt the need to join his family's business, and we continue to wish Andrew the best. Roger comes to us from the city of Lockport, New York, in Niagara County, and he has years of financial experience in business, education, and government. He will be an important addition to our financial team working for you here at Town Hall. And I just want to say, Roger did just come on board last week. This budget this year, which normally really is a team effort, Suzanne Saso, our finance director, for most of this budget season has been in the hot seat, preparing this budget largely single-handed with inputs that we've talked about. And I want to acknowledge all your work, Suzanne. I thank you for that, and thank you for everything you do to really preserve the fiscal strength of Brighton. Preparing the town's tentative budget is an opportunity to review operations, identify areas for improvement, and find opportunities for collaboration. Ultimately, it's a balancing act between the need to be fiscally prudent and the need to offer the kind of services that make Brighton a special community. We look forward to your input during the 2 budget hearings in October, and we appreciate the efforts of every community volunteer and staff member that assisted in the preparation of this budget. Thank you. And now Suzanne Saso, Finance Director, will present a PowerPoint outlining in much greater detail this year's budget. We have budget books here. I want to mention again, the budget is available, hard copies in the town clerk's office, in the library. It'll also be available online. I'm not sure it's there yet. Tomorrow, it'll be there online. So I'm going to step back and invite everybody else to step back so we can see Suzanne's presentation, and maybe we can get the lights down.
Thank you, Supervisor, and thank you, town board members. And I do want to take a minute first off just to thank everyone. I mean, Bill said that I, didn't really do this single-handedly. It takes a village or a town or whatever to create this budget, starting back in the springtime, up through even late last evening. And from department heads all the way down to their staff members, from the beginning with all kinds of input and just even helping to put the budget book and presentation together. If I were to name names, I'd forget somebody, so I just want to thank everybody that has been very supportive of me during this process. So I'm going to just go over some slides, kind of overview of what Supervisor Maley just went through. And I think I maybe went 1, 2, 5.
Can you see okay?
I'm good. Thanks. Okay. Just to start out a bit, as we usually do with our budget presentation, is just talk about the different services that town residents receive with their tax dollars that they're spending. We have one of the best police departments in the state of New York. And I'm not going to go through and read every little detail on the slide here, but of course, 24-hour operation. They are a New York State accredited police agency with over 40 professional sworn officers. Last year, there's some statistics here with regards to 2015, and the numbers, they had 43,305 calls. They had 492 criminal arrests. They participated in 90 community presentations, and also, while the courts are separate from the police department, but in the arena, the courts completed 10,800 cases in 2015. Our highway and sewer departments. Again, some statistics from 2015. They maintain almost 195 lane miles of roads throughout the town, 83 miles of storm sewers, 41 miles of concrete gutters, 38 miles of curbing, and approximately 1,600 plus road signs. They repaved over 33,000 square feet roads last year, and surface treated over 85,000 square feet, yards, sorry. At the snow and ice control, they maintain 318 miles of roads, clearing those during the winter seasons. You get the curbside brush and leaf pickup. As Bill mentioned during the presentation, we did restore about, I can't remember, if it was $33,000 or $38,000 in the 2017 budget for additional pickup time for that. And they also remove in the town right-of-ways trees and replant trees. Our Brighton Memorial Library, again, one of the best in the county. Some statistics from 2015, they had 681,115 pieces of material checked out. And internet activity by the patrons, they had over 85,000. Not sure how they track that. And just a wide range of information you can get there in the library. Plus, they just went through recently renovating inside the library. So if you haven't had a chance, please go down and see that. It's really, really nice. The Parks and Recreation departments, they oversee, we've got 7 parks now with the addition of the Sandra L. Frankel Nature Park and various recreation areas of over 528 acres. We've got 7 playgrounds, a couple pavilions, or lodges and pavilions. I think there's 6 or 7 pavilions and gazebos. We have the outdoor pool behind Town Hall. Indoor pool is really utilizing the school district's pool. Several soccer and baseball fields, basketball courts, pickleball. We have over 15 miles of walking trails. And in the rec programs in 2015, they had 252 programs, which encompassed 650 sessions. Also, our rec and parks department oversee the Veterans Memorial, and we have the community garden and the farmers market on Sundays. The general government services, we have our fire marshal in charge of fire and code and building codes, the public works department, I like to call engineering. They do the town's comprehensive plan, zoning, community development goals, the public works department. Also, recent projects they've been working on over the past couple of years have been the Highland Crossing Trail, the Monroe Avenue Green Street project, and the pedestrian and bicycle plan implementation. We have the cable broadcasting, as this meeting is right now, and other community programs. The town clerk's office providing marriage licenses and passports and is in charge of elections. Our town historian, and then the assessor's office, as Bill mentioned too, we will be doing a reval of homes in all properties actually in the town over the next 2 years. So getting into the numbers for the 2017 tentative budget. I know there's a lot of numbers up here on this slide. I've got it broken down. The first 4 lines for our operating budget, we have our general fund, our highway fund, our library fund, and debt service fund. Monies to help offset future debt payments. And then where it says SA through SW, that's all our special districts, from ambulance to water and everything in between. And the grand totals of each of those. Your appropriations are your expenditures for the year, our estimated revenues in the second column, appropriated fund balances and reserves are in the third columns. To let you know with regards to reserves, we have a workers' comp reserve we're going to use $75,000 for next year, and a streetscape reserve for $20,000. And we have, in the last column, the property tax levy. So there's receipt down at the bottom right corner. I've circled it 3.7%. Overall, amongst all our operating funds and special districts, we're seeing an increase in the tax levy of 3.7%. As the supervisor mentioned, in the operating funds themselves, they're only going up, the levy's going up 1.23%, which is below our tax cap of 1.31 in those funds, but overall, the total budget is over due to the special districts. A look at our revenues and just changes from 2015 to 2016, and this is going from adopted budget 2015 to what our projected budget is right now for 2017. Our pilots, our payment in lieu of taxes, again, during the budget message, Supervisor Maley went over some of those, like with the U of R and other tax-exempt entities that pay a payment outside of the tax base itself. So those are going up $15,000. Our sales tax, we're estimating an increased budget to budget year, $241,000. Our mortgage tax, our estimate is up 6%, that's $50,000. Our sale of equipment is up quite a bit, and this really has to do with trade-in programs that we have for some of our heavy equipment in our highway and sewer departments. And when we trade in those pieces of equipment from an accounting perspective, we record those as a sale. We have just some other miscellaneous department incomes, which actually makes up a lot of our revenues, but they're going down slightly, just some permits in that from one year to the next. Cable franchise fees, we're estimating going up 4%, and a little reduction in our New York State aid for the Monroe County, or the Monroe Avenue Green Street project. We estimated $150,000 this year. Next year we've got $100,000, and that's just a reimbursement for our forces working on that project. This is just a graph showing over the past 10 years our history of actual and budgeted mortgage tax. As you can see, if you can see the red line there, it's the one that goes up and down quite a bit. So it's somewhat hard to predict depending what's going on with the economy, with interest rates. But when people buy homes or refinance, a portion of that does come back to the town. And sales tax, again, our actuals are in the red there to the left of that arrow over the past 10 years. They typically go up. We did have a little dip after a little downward slide in the economy back in 2008. But historically, they've been going up about, as you can see from the slide, 5.7% over the past few years, 10 years. So we're estimating a 5% increase for this year and 2017, and that's how we got to our estimate for 2017. And put just a breakdown from year to year, from 2015 to 2016, of our expenditures, personal services and benefits. We've got medical premiums on our base plan going up 6%, the police retirement system going up 2%. Overall, I've got an increased estimate of just over $300,000. Equipment and capital outlay, a little bit of a decrease. We do anticipate in our CIP borrowing about $1.3 million in 2017 for infrastructure and equipment. Our supplies and contractual services are up 8.6%. That's largely due to the fire service in West Brighton. We also have some increases in our engineering, mowing, and other contract services. Utilities have gone down a little bit, and then our principal and interest on debt combined has gone down a little bit in 2017. We did pay off over $800,000 last year. We've got $870,000 in next year's budget, but the difference in this being a couple things, some debt that we paid off and principal payments going down in some of the debts, and plus we are refinancing or refunding, it's called an advanced refunding of our bonds from 2007 for our Parkland. And we're estimating a decrease in our interest next year of $20,000 based upon that refunding. And then the next 3 slides, I'm just going to overview some of our, or highlight some of our capital improvement infrastructure and equipments that we have in the budget for next year. And our highway and public works departments, vehicles, 2 large trucks. We've got a plow truck and a dump truck, a loader, a tractor, and then, as I was discussing earlier, about a trade-in program, and that's of a backhoe. Those total $530,000. We plan on borrowing for most all of that, and spread those costs out over the useful life of the vehicles and equipment. Our road program, so resurfacing roads, we've got storm sewers and gutters and townwide sidewalks, and the Green Street project over on Monroe Avenue is just over $1.2 million. We've got in there $713,000 in grants. Some of that is money from the state for road resurfacing, and also for that Green Street project of just over $400,000. In our planning and public works area, they've been working on Monroe Avenue improvements, the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and the Highland Crossing Trail. We're estimating $1.2 million next year. And most all of that grant funded, and that's really mainly the Highland Crossing Trail, where we've got a federal grant that's covering 80% of that. And then the forestry management program, every 3 years we have a little spike in this as we treat the emerald ash borer every 3 years. So that's totaling $107,000. In a few of our other departments, we have information systems and our financial software. Looking to upgrade that, and together we're looking at $80,000 in equipment and software. Police, 3 new police vehicles, and continued, we're in a 5-year contract right now for body cameras and data storage. That's totaling $142,000. We do have some reserves to help offset that of almost $12,000. And parks and recs in our facilities, looking at spending about $175,000 in grant money next year for the farmers market, to renovate the barn over at Buckland. We have secured actually $900,000 in grant funding for that project. We're also looking to start an HVAC program to replace the HVAC system here at the town hall, and replace a truck that we will borrow for at $48,000. And then, as mentioned a couple times in the assessor's office, we have a townwide assessment update. This would be year 1 of a 2-year program project. Next year, our spending is estimated to be $91,500, and we have reserves set aside for this project, part of it. And our special districts over in the sewer, replacing a truck and a bobcat, 2 bobcats and a backhoe, and various sewer repairs. And then the big ticket item here was a replacement of a valve on Blossom Road. And I think that was 300 and some odd thousand. We plan on borrowing in the sewer district $530,000 next year to go towards the valve and some of the equipment. In our town sidewalk district, another $167,000 in maintaining the sidewalks, and then setting aside $75,000 in the ambulance district to apply towards the purchase of an ambulance. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. While everybody comes back up here, I know that's a lot of material for everybody to process. Again, it will be available for review. We will have 2 public hearings on the budget at our next 2 meetings. You know, a number of, so many things in there to touch on. We talked about some of the borrowing, but also the fact that we are repaying a large part of our outstanding debts. The net increase in debt is much, much smaller than the actual new borrowing. The advanced refunding that Suzanne talked about, that will be saving $20,000 next year alone, we'll be saving well over $100,000 over the life of those parkland bonds that were issued back in 2007 after our parkland referendum. So I think all of that is testimony to how hard Suzanne and really everybody involved in the budget development process have worked to make sure that the budget does what I kept talking about. Yes, we want to make sure that the services that are so important to the community are provided for and enhanced, but to do so in a fiscally responsible way. We're now going to go to the open forum portion of the meeting, unless anybody has any questions. And you know, we're working on this. We'll be getting to public hearings in a minute, and I know you're going to be needing to use the screen again for that. When we do start the open forum here in just a moment, that's the opportunity, as always, for anyone to address the board about a topic, whether it's on our agenda tonight or not. Now, if you're here to speak at a public hearing, and we do have 1 public hearing tonight, a public hearing on a request from Frontier Communications for a franchise for cable and video service in the town of Brighton. If you're here to comment on that and you'd like your comments to be included in the record of that hearing, I would ask you to wait until we call that hearing. But if you do want to speak during the open forum, I'll recognize you. Just raise your hand. Please come to the podium. If you would, please state your name and address. Please direct your comments to members of the board and not to the audience. And try to keep your comments concise. If you do have written comments, feel free to give them to the town clerk afterwards, and we'll make sure they are included in the record. Now, if you're watching at home or somewhere else online, you can participate in the open forum as well. You can call 303-3060. Someone will take your call and your question or comment, and they'll review it, relay it up to me. 303-3060. If you're deaf and would like to use our TDD system to participate in the open forum, you can call 784-5205. Again, our TDD line, 784-5205. We welcome your interest and your input. Now, is there anyone that would like to address the board tonight during the open forum? Judy.
Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. I hadn't planned on it, but it's just part of me since, well, April. I've been involved with a massive voter registration project this summer. We've have over 200 volunteers, and we've gone to about 50 sites, and we're still working at it. We've registered close to 2,000 people, which is pretty amazing. We're in the city, soup kitchens, shelters, health centers, that kind of place. But I just wanted to make a general comment. If you need to register or re-register, October 14th is the very last day. I encourage you to do it before then rather than waiting till the last moment. If you have moved since you last voted, you must re-register. If you've changed your name, the same reason too. Also too, we were told that if somebody is handicapped in some way and standing in line to vote might be difficult, they can ask for an absentee ballot. You can either call 753-1550 or even download it from your computer and mail in that form requesting an absentee ballot. So there are a couple of ways to do it. You can even download the registration form. You cannot make copies of it each one must be new, a new printout. You can make copies, though, of the form to obtain an absentee ballot. So I think that's pretty much what I just wanted to say, just to remind people. The vote, of course, is November 8th, but if you need to re-register, I encourage you to do it now. You have college students who might want to vote with their local, people and stay in New York State. They can obtain an absentee ballot as well. And I encourage students really to do it, because your chances of knowing your state and certainly local candidates is far greater than if you go off to, let's say, Missouri or something. You really aren't as involved. So that's something for parents and the students to think about as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I know the town clerk's office also has voter registration forms, so if you're in there to pay your taxes and you have an opportunity to register, or if a grandchild has reached voting age, you can get your registration form there. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Yes, sir. Come on up. Hi, how are you?
Good. Devon Town. I live at 124 Seminole. Louise is actually my neighbor and brought it to my attention that I don't know if you discussed it last week, but that the tree in front of my house might be trimmed or chopped down all the way. I just wanted to state my preference that it would not be chopped down. I think it adds to the canopy of the road, and that it provides shade for everybody walking by, and it's fine if the highway department needs to trim it to prevent branches from falling or anything. But if it could be kept up, that would be great.
Tim, refresh my memory, the status of that tree and public hearing?
We have not sent it to the board for a public hearing yet, Bill. It did go to the tree council, did go to Public Works. Tree council's recommendation was to remove and replant. Based upon Louise's concern, I have asked for an independent arborist evaluation of both trees, which we would get sometime in October, I believe.
What kind of tree is that?
They're the silver maples.
Silver maple.
Yep. So, so we are going to take a, not just our highway department's assessment of it, but we will have an arborist go out there, and we'll see what that assessment is as well before any action is taken.
Great, fantastic.
Okay.
In addition,
Thanks.
if I just may add, if there was going to be a proposed removal of that tree, being that that is on your property, you would get a postcard or a letter from the town letting you know that there was going to be a public hearing about that. So you'd have opportunity to come in and again express your opinion, bring your neighbors, bring their opinions, so a lot of opportunity to have input before that tree goes anywhere.
Right. That's true, and, just asking for the second opinion, we'll see if it, comes up any different than, what the thoughts were from our highway department inspection. So, and as, Ken has said, you get a notification if it is moving forward, but I think what we'll do is after it comes in, and because Louise has taken an interest in this, obviously, we'll probably do some FaceTime with everybody.
Great.
How's that?
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming in. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve and file the town board meeting minutes for the September 14, 2016 town board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Public hearings, and as I mentioned before, we do have one public hearing. It is a public hearing on an application that the town received from Frontier Telephone of Rochester, Inc., which we may refer to as Frontier Communications tonight, pursuant to the New York Code of Rules and Regulations. seeking to offer cable and video service in the town of Brighton. Section 894.7 requires that a public hearing be held, and that's the purpose of this public hearing tonight. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this manner?
Notice was filed in the September 22nd edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you very much. Then I call this public hearing to order, and I think what I'd like to do, I believe that Frontier has a presentation that they would like to make. I would also note that before we close the meeting tonight, we have not only their actual application, which came together with correspondence dated August 1st. We also have communication from counsel to Frontier, the Glennon law firm, dated September 23rd, 2016, and correspondence from Charter Communications, the successor corporation to the merger with Time Warner Cable. That correspondence is dated September 28th, 2016, also relating to the Frontier franchise application. And I would ask that each of those items be included in the record of the public hearing tonight. And I will turn it over to the representatives here from Frontier. If you'd introduce yourselves for the record. And again, I think we'll step back so we
Supervisor, if I may?
Yes.
I wasn't listening carefully to you as usual. Did you also reference the actual paper copy of the PowerPoint?
No, I didn't. Thank you. You each have a copy of this PowerPoint here, and we will include that as well in the record of the hearing. Thanks, Ken.
Okay, so I was listening carefully.
Good job.
Well, good evening, Supervisor Mealy, Town Council, the staff, residents of Brighton. We're very excited to be here tonight for this presentation. We think this is something that's very good for Frontier Communications, but we think it's good for all residents of Frontier Market throughout the several counties we serve. So I want to first introduce, I am Bill Carpenter. I'm the Area General Manager for Rochester Communications, responsible for the east side of the market. I have with me Steve Crosby, Senior Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, here from California with us, and Emma Rebedu, who is here with the Glennon Law Firm in Rochester, New York. Vantage TV, we have a brief presentation we want to give, Mr. Supervisor. We'll go through this. We'd be happy to have any questions, and then I have a closing I'd like to make after that, if that's okay. Vantage TV is a great cable product. We're very excited about what it offers. It's state-of-the-art, and we think it's very good. It provides competition and choice, which we think is a fabulous thing. It will provide investment in communities as we build and expand this system. We're going to need to continue to make investments in the community infrastructure, which is a good thing. And I'll add a fourth one. We saw your cable franchise fees were increasing 4% this year. We hope to add to that and see a larger growth in the future. So we'd be glad to help your budget out.
Can you see all that, Bill?
I'll make it.
Because we can certainly put the lights back on.
Okay, thanks. It's just easy. So first of all, here's a commitment to those who we serve. This is a little bit about Frontier Communications. One of our biggest values is putting the customer first. We work hard each and every day to serve the over 200,000 customers we have here in the Rochester market and put them first. Local engagement. We are employees who live, work, and play here in the communities. Frontier Rochester has approximately 2,500 employees. We're one of the top 20 employers in the Rochester area. We have a long and rich history. One of the things we're also very proud of is nationwide, 13% of our employees are veterans, and we're very proud of that. We try every time we can to hire veterans, their families, and make sure we're supportive of those who have served our country. I'll go to next. So this is a map of our national. We serve 29 states. On the right side, we are the East region, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia. Our president is Ken Arndt. Just some quick facts. We're an S&P 500 company. We're a Fortune 500 company. We serve 29 states, approximately 29,000 employees nationwide, $11 billion of revenue. Our state headquarters are here in Rochester, New York. In fact, we have a new senior vice president responsible for the New York region who has moved here from Pennsylvania, and she is relocating to the Rochester market, which we're very excited about. And corporate headquarters are in Norwalk, Connecticut. I think with that, Steve is going to take over.
Thank you for your time. I'll be brief and walk through this fairly quickly, but I really want to talk about initially here some of our experience, as well as we have 1.5 million customers that are on our various video services nationwide. So the slide talks about where we provide currently FiOS video services that we purchased from Verizon a number of years ago and operate currently in and around the greater Seattle area, the greater Portland area, as well as Southern California. We recently closed a transaction with Verizon for the states of California, Florida, and Texas. We also operate the FiOS system in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The system that we plan on, with approvals here in the state of New York, plan on rolling out is a system that we purchased from AT&T called the UVerse system. It's that platform that we plan on expanding here in New York as well as elsewhere across the U.S. And we have a list of states and cities where we plan on expanding that. Next slide. So the platform we are using is the Ericsson Media Room platform, where there are more than 16 million subscribers, more than 30 million set-top boxes that use this particular platform. And it really offers you an anytime, anywhere experience. So many of us have a home or an apartment where you are somewhat stuck to a room. These media room boxes or set-top boxes are wireless enabled, so you can take the box around to wherever in the room you'd like it to be near your TV set. You can also use it for interactivity for Facebook, Twitter, and other things you may want to use on the big screen TV. Some of the advantages of this particular product: it offers standard definition, high definition, and ultra high definition. And part of the product is you get video on demand library with over 100,000 titles of both television, movies, as well as movies that you purchase through various services. Would you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. This is a depiction of what the set-top box, as well as the channel changer, looks like, and of course a large television set. So these are the various services that are on the Vantage TV set-top box, the instant channel change. And so what many of us experience currently is when you change your channel on your television, there's a lag time. This particular product offers no lag time. It's instantaneous. You have the ability to get multi-view, where you can see a number of different screens, a number of different pictures on your screen to see what else is happening on other television channels at the same time. I've talked about the video on demand library, the whole room set-top box, where you can really move that set-top box whatever room you'd like, and you're not tied to wires in your house. The visual guide I will talk about a little further, and then again, you can use your set-top box in conjunction with your smartphone and program it either way. So it's just advantageous for people to use. So this is the visual guide, and this is what you experience when you pull up, turn on your television set. You're able to see right away what television shows are on what channels, and then you can navigate from there to where you think, oh gosh, I'd like to watch channel 2, 5, 7, 13. And this is a channel peaks, which gives you the ability to take a look at what you may want to watch on another channel as opposed to watching what you're currently watching. Unified search. And so you're thinking about watching a show and you don't remember exactly the name of the show, but if you know a word in that show title or the name of the actor or actress you'd like to see, you can put it in. So in this instance here, it's Irons. It could be Jeremy Irons, the actor. It could be Iron Man, the movie, Iron Man 2, 3, 4, or 5. And here you can create media lists. So you have your video on demand library. Many people use Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime, and they purchase a movie and they want it in their library. You can create your own lists here, have those movies loaded into that particular list, or you say, I have kids. I want the kids to see certain types of shows, and that is able to be created here through a kids' stuff list. So I mentioned Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime. All of those are integrated into this set-top box. And so you don't need to have multiple boxes to get the various movies that you'd like to see. So if you want to see Game of Thrones, you can pick that up through Netflix. If you want to watch something on Amazon Prime, you get that here. It's all fully integrated so that you have the ability to have the one set-top box that has the interactivity as well as the search capability that you may want.
Thank you, Steve. So what does this mean to Brighton? Residents and businesses will have access to next-generation video experience. They'll have a competitively priced alternative to the existing cable provider. While we don't have existing prices to share with you tonight, we know that we're going to have to be competitive. We know we're going to have to come out of the box with good packages. We'll offer packages that allow people to buy the video product on its own or in the bundles as people like. So we will do that. No inconvenience to the general public. Again, we're not going to be out digging up, putting in the infrastructure. In this first round, what we're really doing is the video product will be brought into a central spot here in Rochester. It'll actually be downtown. From there, it's sent out to what we call our central offices. Upgrades are being made to those central offices for the electronics necessary to carry the video product and display that. But also, it's a lot of compression software that allows us to really put more and more down these pipes. And that's what we've done. From the central offices, it goes out to what we call remotes, and that's how this is going to. So the beauty of where we are today is research and science has allowed companies like ours to use fiber and cable. Fiber and copper, excuse me. So we will be fiber to the nodes, we'll be fiber into those remotes and central offices. We will still be using the copper system. We have thousands and thousands of miles out there today. And again, it's increased franchise and PEG revenues. The PEG is the public education channels. With the franchise fees, some will be transferring between the incumbent and us, but we think we have opportunities to bring businesses from the satellite companies that are not subject to franchise fees currently. Finally, we look forward to bringing competition and choice with the innovative product offerings from Frontier Communications to the residents and businesses of the town of Brighton. So with that, we would love to field whatever questions you have.
Thank you all. I will have a couple of questions, but let me wait for my colleagues to get back up here and see what questions they have. Louise, Jason, Chris, any questions?
If we,
Video junkie, I had 20 of them, but go ahead, Louise.
I just have, the only one that comes to my mind initially is we have green light. Does that mean that we have to give up green light to get Frontier?
Well, Greenlight is a product, a company that sells a high-speed internet product. They don't have it. So to get the product, you would have to do business with Frontier. Yes.
So Greenlight provides internet service.
Yes.
A connection, as does Time. Is it under Time Warner? But they
just were purchased by Charter.
By Charter. Charter also provides internet service, and Frontier also provides internet service over your phone lines currently, correct?
So I guess you say Time Warner, Charter, and Frontier offer phone, internet, and cable product, all three.
So now the cable product, but that's an independent thing from your internet service per se, correct?
It runs over the internet service, but it's a different product, yes.
Right, okay. Now, one of the questions that Charter had was your market success build-out plan and their interpretation of the requirement that you have 100% coverage within 5 years.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's some disagreement about federal and state regulation of that. Can you guys address that at all?
Yeah, we can. First of all, we want to just remind you that in New York State, surprise, surprise, it's going to be a two-step approval process. The first step is we have to appear before 45 communities in the frontier market to gain their specific approval. Once we gain that approval, it has to go to the PSC for their review and approval of it as well. So as to build out, that is the number one issue that is stop competition. So it's interesting they raise that as an issue, but that is the issue that's allowed the incumbent to essentially have a monopoly for almost 30 years. And I guess you have to look at it. If you had the opportunity to open 3 franchises, I think most people are going to be smart and build their first one first, build success, model, and open the second, and then move it on. The same thing here. It's capitally very difficult for us to come in and say we can do 100% in 5 years. That's a big investment. We're making a big investment, and we want to make a big investment. We have a success-based product that we've offered in there that has been done in other states, and we think it's supported by the FCC and the PSC, but we think eventually PSC will be the arbiter of that issue.
So just to clarify.
If I may, on this legal issue, please.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Ms. Rabideau, is it? Yes. If we could have a brief from your law firm on the relevant case law addressing this issue, and we're going to ask Charter for the same, and then we'll take a look at that.
And I was just going to ask, what you're telling, at least part of your answer, I take it then, to Chris's question, is that you are not prepared in your application or to amend your application to provide for a full build-out of the town of Brighton within 5 years.
That is correct. That is correct.
I see in the appendix that within 2 years, you suggest you'll have 35% completed, but it's the 100% coverage. How will you determine where you're going to provide the service then? Or maybe you could tell me what market success build-out means, how that plan works.
So market success build-out, so we will use the infrastructure we have right now today, and that's the term. I can tell you right now, I think Brighton's somewhere around 50% from the get-go coverage that we'll be able to provide. So the coverage and success and how much market share we continue to build is what's going to really drive that product.
So notice how many subscribers you get in
Yes.
a particular
Yeah,
neighborhood and such, similar to what Greenlight does.
That's correct, and we can do it. I mean, we're going to make, as we grow and where we see that the product is desired, we're going to want to make improvements in those areas. I think we will also consider maybe that same model where we'll offer people to petition us and sign agreements, and we'll build to them.
So what are the improvements that are necessary? Do you say some will be fiber, some will be copper over the existing lines and such?
Yeah.
What do you need to do to
Sure.
increase coverage?
So the type of, we need to install, first purchase and then install new equipment in many of from our central offices to our remote sites that Bill had referenced earlier. Millions of dollars of equipment are being purchased right now. With that, we would then expand, as we talk about the market success model, we build to 35% of your community, and then we try to get as many customers as we possibly can to subscribe to our service. We could be at 35% with 4 customers. Now, 10 customers, whatever, pick a number. We won't be at 100%, I don't think, given that our competitor, who has been opposing us in every community, will do everything they can to slow us down. So we're going to be scrappy, we're going to be competitive, but we will initially at 35% build out in your community, and then from there, with the market success model, grow that depending on where we are in terms of market share.
So I'm just trying to get a better handle on this issue so that if somebody asks our supervisor or our town board members, will I have access to this? Is this for me? They'll be able to have a better answer. So I understand a 35% build out, 35% that is of the town's households with cable service. And there's just a mix of terminology here that I want you to take a little bit of time so that we can understand if we're talking about apples to apples or apples to oranges or apples to oranges and pears, because I think it's the last. So we've got 35% your first build out of the town's households with cable service. Then you say, if after 2 years, the Frontier is actually serving, that is, people have actually subscribed for 30% of qualified living units. And qualified living units are defined as not just houses that have cable service, but houses that have cable service within a certain range of cable availability and have a certain downloadable speed you specify, 25 megabytes per second. So that's a second definition. And then you go on to say that you will then have a build-out. You said, Mr. Carpenter, I think you said that there are currently probably around 50% of Brighton houses would qualify, and the terminology used here is capable of receiving cable service. So that's term number 3. So we've got houses with cable service, we've got qualified living units, which is houses with cable service with a certain download speed and a certain proximity, and then we have houses which are capable of receiving cable service. And I want to try to understand how those 3 terms come together to give us a sense of where you're going and what the criteria is.
So I'll start with your last question first, if I may. So about half the community of Brighton has the capability of receiving the kind of service we need, the download and upload speeds we need for the Vantage TV product, which Bill mentioned earlier. And so that's at least 12 meg.
There you go. Yeah,
at least 12 meg to receive the service. It is over our copper lines, and so that's different than the cable company, the charter company. So we use our compression technology to push the speed through the copper lines. And so about half of the community will be capable of that. Over time, more than half will have the ability to receive the service.
As you build infrastructure.
As we build further infrastructure, right. And that infrastructure is mostly equipment, mostly electronic equipment, because as you get out into some of the more, I would say rural areas, but areas that are further away from our remote sites and further away from the central offices, you start losing the speed, and that's where we need to be adding more equipment at a later point.
Let me just address that, because this gets technical, and I don't want to get technical. But essentially, we are using right now our central office and all the remotes to get to that initial put out. The next step was we're going to have to add a little bit more fiber and some more remotes to do that. So it's a little bit more expensive, but that's that next level of improvement to push out into the areas we're not able to serve and provide the level of service necessary to provide a quality product. One thing we know in getting into this business is that we're going to have to deliver a very high quality, high dependable service. So we're going to be very choosy. And it really becomes about distance and how you go from either central office or a remote, how far you go out before that signal really starts losing some of its effectiveness. And that's what really guides this. Does that make sense?
So this is over existing telephone lines currently. And then where necessary, you're going to pull fiber optic cable to households or just to the remote
It's a
site?
combination of fiber to the node, so we call it fiber to the node, so fiber into our central office, fiber out to those remotes. But then from those things, as it goes to the homes, it's going to use the copper systems.
And that's different
And it's-
from the FiOS systems that you've acquired from Verizon, which are fiber to the home, which presumably higher capacity, superior capabilities. I mean, I'm not a techie, so I may not have the right words, but the fiber throughput is a superior technology, is it not?
Not necessarily. That's what we're talking about, the compression technology. Now, through the labs and through our engineering group, we can get over 100 meg of speed through copper lines, the existing copper lines that are in your community right now. So there's no fiber there. So based on technological advances, we're able to increase the speeds through copper.
But there's presumably at this point, there's an end point to that, and presumably capability would be potentially greater with a fiber to the home.
Well, keep in mind, if you would, may I say that 5 years ago, no one thought we would be able to get 50 meg through copper. Now we're at over 100, and the way technology works, it keeps doubling and doubling over time. So fiber is great, fiber and copper is great, and copper serves us well, and we'll get the speeds to deliver this product. All you need is 12 meg to deliver the kind of robust TV and video that people want.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, I also want to say, our limitation isn't fiber or copper, it's those remotes going out. You really need to have the electronics to drive it out. So for every 5,000 further feet you want to go out, you have to have those remotes in place. That's what's missing. So it does not matter. The technology has done amazing things in just the last few years in terms of what, we tell people that usage is doubling about every 13 months in terms of the internet pipes. And compression is coming in as big, so we're taking the same size pipes and really compressing down so we can put a lot more product through it.
I have a question, and talk about not being a techie. That's me. Are you related to the telephone company? Are you going to be going after first people that you're going to try to talk to, or people that already have still have telephones, landlines?
Frontier Communications is what you used to know as Rochester Telephone. So we provide telephone product. We provide high-speed internet today. We're adding the next generation into this as a cable product. So those are our customers. We're very proud to have them. We want to keep them.
If I may just add
I didn't
one
get
other
an
point,
answer at
too.
all.
We also currently have a partnership
back at
with
it.
the Dish Network, Dish Satellite. So we assume over time that some of those customers that are with satellite will join us on the Vantage TV product.
I think Ken
Yeah,
wants to follow.
I asked a multi-part question, which I always realize after the fact is a horrible mistake because it just confuses me more. So I'm going to try to go back and bear with me, gentlemen, because I'm trying to get unconfused. Let me just ask this simple question, I think. Is the phrase, a household capable of receiving cable service, the same thing as a household with cable service?
Am I going to ask, do you have that question down? Do you understand the question that the counselor is raising?
Is the phrase a household capable of receiving cable service the same as a household receiving cable service?
With cable service. Just reading your language here. Is that meant to be the same thing?
What we'd like to do is go back and make sure we can provide a good answer for you on that. You had three parts. You want to review your...
Part 3 is, are either one of those terms the same as a qualified living unit?
Okay.
Again, because this plan is 2 years, build up 35% of the households with cable service. Then, if you have 30% of the market share of qualified living units, you will then increase by an additional 15% the total households then capable of receiving cable service. Because you said we're less than 50%, that's why I'm picking that 15% number. So I'm just trying to jibe the numbers. And what we're concerned about here is favoritism, partialism. Our residents, and you know this, Mr. Carpenter, better than I do because I've never been a town supervisor, but you have. Town residents expect that they get all the services that the town has available. And if the town is going to be receiving franchise payments from Frontier, then all the town residents are going to want the benefit of what, to me, appears to be an excellent opportunity to get great cable service. So we want to be able to answer when those questions come into Bill or Dan or Jason or Louise or Chris. Probably not you, Mark. Probably not. You never know.
You never know, though.
That they'll have the answer to be able to say, oh, well, you may not have it now, but I know that 2 years down the line, this is what Frontier's plans are. And we have to be able to explain that in plain English. And what I was just talking about, qualified living units capable of blah, gobbledygook. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that it sounded bad when I was saying it. It still sounds bad. So, and I don't mean bad in a pejorative way. I mean difficult to understand.
But I guess it's no different than the company who brought up Greenlight. Greenlight doesn't come in and put cables throughout every single street in every single community and say it's offered. There is a base model for growing that business and allowing people to petition and sign contracts to do that. We're really no different. Again, we wish we had those unlimited funds would be necessary to make a perfect world.
There's two things about that Greenlight example. Let me just stay with that because you bring it up. One, it is different because we don't get any money from Greenlight. We will or should be getting money for, well, we should be getting money for that too, but different rules, different laws. But we will be getting money. The town will be collecting money from Frontier as it does from Time Warner/Charter, so that there's that expectation of our residents that they're going to be.
But the alternative, if we're not allowed to do, you will not have that increase. And the other alternative is people are still stuck with no choice, no competition, hopefully to drive prices down and really provide better products. So, I mean, as I said before, the whole issue surrounding competition is over this issue of coverage. And I'm going to guess this is probably going to be an issue before the PSC. I think it's going to be arbitrated.
It's not my intention to suggest that a choice shouldn't be brought in. I love choice. I love television. I'm a junkie like Mr. Werner here. But having said that, what it is it's about information. It's about being able to answer questions of our residents. And I bet you that Bill's assistant, Mary Ann, does get calls about Greenlight. Hey, when can I get Greenlight in my neighborhood?
We do. And
so
do
when those
message
calls come...
boards on Facebook and the like. Sure.
I wasn't finished. I had one other follow-up. Is that the intention of Frontier to eventually not have any landlines left wherever they are? I mean, to me, it sounds like people are starting to give up their landlines because they use their cells so much anyway. But is one of the intentions of this to get into the market of where people have landlines and tell them how much better it would be to have your product?
Go ahead.
The answer is no. I mean,
Okay.
seriously,
Yeah.
we love our landline customers. We continue to invest in landline services. We also invest in our broadband or high-speed internet services, as well as hopefully launching this product, the Vantage TV product. So, no, we have no plans on ignoring our important landline customers, which really are the basis and the backbone where this company got started.
And I will say there's a lot of people who are very dedicated to their phone systems for security purposes and other things because if there's power outages, those phone lines still work and are very important.
Ken, are you still working on some of your questions there?
I believe the answer I got is we'll get back to you, and I'm fine with that. I don't know what that means or what the implications are on that relative to our public hearing record, because I think we want this as part of the public hearing record, right? On answers a public hearing record to look like there were questions asked about the terms in your proposal that were not answered fully.
What a number of communities where we've had public hearings have done is close public hearing, but have left the record open for a week period for such information to be brought into the record.
I think that would
That
be
would
adequate.
certainly be one option.
And we'll turn a response around for you very quickly.
Yeah.
And when and if you come back, could you give me some information on all the taxes that we're paying on our telephone bill? They say my bill should be $4.95 a month, but it's really $22.
Louise, I think that's probably a question that's off the topic of the public hearing.
Well,
but
okay, nobody else to
certainly
ask.
get that information.
Those are fees we're obligated to charge. We have no say in. So when we quote price, no different when you go in and buy a pair of shoes, they tell you the price of the shoes. They don't tell you the price of the shoes with the sales tax, which added to it. Those are all fees and things that are required by our state or federal government.
Tim, did you have a question?
Supervisor, I do. I don't know if it's germane, but I think it is. I'd like to bring up the issue of double wood poles that are out there, have been out there for years, where the other carriers on those poles have relocated Frontier has not. And I believe that this is not a, unique problem to the town of Brighton. And I don't believe that there is much being done about it from my experience with the situation. I know it's a topic by all the highway superintendents here in Monroe County. And I'm also very familiar with Fairport Electric and the situation out in Fairport. I think it is something that needs to be incorporated, as long as you're using existing infrastructure, which those poles are, that should be part of the plan, is to get those poles, the services switched and the poles out of there. It's very unsightly, and we do get complaints from the residents on that as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll get back to you. It's not part of the public hearing, but we'll get back to you.
No, it is part of the public hearing.
Okay. We'll get back to you and give you our position on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, could you tell me what a qualified living unit is?
Sure. I mean, it's basically any living unit where someone is living. So it's an apartment, if it's a house, it could be a unit in a apartment, building or condo
Someone who
complex.
might want cable service.
Right.
That's right, all right.
Right.
Subject to some technical specifications that are set forth in the agreement.
So, for example, will the ability of a resident to get Frontier service be affected by whether that person has, in the colloquial terms, cut the cord already? Will that affect their ability? Will that take them from one category to another? Okay,
Well, again, one of the benefits is with this product, it's bringing a great cable, but there's going to be enhancements with speeds right along with it, as we said, up to 100 meg. So there are going to be people we know are not going to want the product, but they're going to maybe want the internet service of the 100 meg, so they could cut the cord and live life the way they live. So we think there's a real benefit both sides of this.
But the fact that someone is not currently a Frontier customer because they're no longer using a landline will not affect their being in a category of qualified living unit that may get this service.
The bundles we have is you could buy phone alone, you can buy internet alone, you'll be able to have cable, you can buy any combination. It has nothing to do with what you have or don't have, other than that selection.
Will there be, since you talk about bundles, how will, for franchise fee purposes, how will Frontier be allocating revenues from customers that are obtaining a variety of these services? Since the, I believe, wrongly decided decision out of the Ninth Circuit many years ago that deprived our ability to enforce contracts that specifically mandated that we were supposed to get franchise fees on internet services, that becomes an issue. How do you, when a customer bundles various services, how do you determine how much of that is a service subject to franchise fee?
So we've been doing it for a number of years in a number of states, and so it's allocated based on whatever the price is of the particular product on bundle.
So the standalone price,
Is-
if you have, if you have the fee subject service, we get a franchise fee based on what its standalone price would be, no matter how it's bundled with
So
other
if
services.
it's $20 standalone, separating out taxes and things like that, you'd be getting your franchise fee based on that.
Okay, thank you.
In the proposed or pro forma franchise agreement that you provided, the percentage of the fee itself is blank.
Right. At the time we sent that back, I think you said August or so, we didn't know what that fee was. So we will be comparable to whatever the percentages with Charter Time Warner.
It will be important to us to know what that actual number is,
Well,
obviously.
what we need to know is what you're paying the incumbent, and we're obligated to match.
Understood.
So understand whatever you're paying, franchise fees, PEG fees, we need to know what your relationship is with the incumbent. We are obligated to match that.
No more than 5%.
Right, it's no more than 5%, but some communities it's 3%. So if you would be willing to share with us what that is,
Absolutely. Sure.
that'll fill in the blank on that area.
I think it's a matter of public record, but
Yeah.
we'll get it to you.
The proposal that I read, and I forgot which version, well, not versions, but which component it was, indicated that you were going to match, the various, call it amenities that the provider has for the community and such. One of the things that caught my eye was the free service to the town. Now, it sounds though as if it's a pretty minimal amount of service, a couple of drops within the building or some such. Could you tell me a little more about the free service that?
Sure. So again, I don't know what Charter is providing you in terms of a free service, and I'm sure they are in a couple of buildings. It could be a library, it could be City Hall, and we would match that or come up with other public buildings where we could be equal.
Would that duplicate it somewhat? So if they gave us 3, we'd have 3 more, and now we'd have 6?
But
Again, the technology escapes me.
We could prepare it at another building. So let's say Charter doesn't do the fire station, we would use that as the public building and offer it to the fire station or the police station.
So by adding,
If they're giving you 3 sites, you could choose 3 other sites from us.
so that will expand our
Yeah,
free
yeah,
service
yeah.
to the community. One thing that always interested me, was frustrated because the technical aspect of it made it seem non-feasible, but public locations, free internet within the town. I would love to see if you went into 12 Corners at that site there, that there was internet available to our school kids and everyone else. Now, there are some very sites, but they're very limited in terms of their usability.
Right, we're talking though cable TV here, not internet
Oh,
service.
excuse me, you're right. See, I drifted.
One other question that needs to be filled in is the term of the contract. We are open anywhere from 5 to 15 years in terms of what, and again, we're looking for your direction on that.
Great, thanks.
Now, assuming you get all of your local government approvals, and then you have to go through the state process with the PSC, what's the goal timeframe that you plan to be working on the infrastructure around here and then offering the service to residents?
Well, based on our...
Understanding we're dealing with the state.
Yeah, sure. So far within New York State, we've received, I think, 5 or 6 approvals from local municipalities. We will start transmitting those to the State Public Service Commission over the next week or so. Our engineering crew is ready to go within 4 to 6 weeks. So if we got approval from the PSC by November 1st, we could bring it to these 4 or 5, 6 towns already. But it's going to take some time. We hope we can compress the time frame with the PSC down to a month or less. But we'll know that soon enough.
Yeah, we know we will be ready probably mid to late November with the product ready to go, ready to roll it out. So we're ready to go. We're anxious. We want communities to be anxious with us and be there with us because we think it's a great product. And those that want to get on board, allow us to get it to the PSC, those are the ones we're going to roll it out to first.
We have not yet established a timeline for the board to take action on the Frontier proposal. The idea was that we would conduct this public hearing this evening. I would recommend that we close the public hearing and allow submission of written materials for, let's say, 10 business day or 14 day, whatever anyone prefers, period of time, if that would give Frontier an adequate amount of time to get in additional information.
Ken, would we also I don't believe we have anybody here this evening from Charter. However, to the extent that we receive written material from Frontier that Charter might wish to respond to.
Well, I don't want to get into a back and forth
either.
But if we say that we're going to receive written comments for, let's say it's 14-day period of time after the close of the public hearing, obviously that's for anyone to comment, not just Frontier to comment. So if some resident wants to write to us and after watching this make a comment, I think that would be well received. So what I would suggest then is that we do close the public hearing and leave the comment period open for whatever period of time the board chooses, and then look to schedule this matter for action in the upcoming few months. We do have a 6-month window. I don't know that we really need that period of time, I think the presentation's been fairly thorough, but for a couple questions, and so I think you should be able to have all the information you need ready to make a decision on this.
Are there any more questions from either the audience? We haven't heard any questions from the public tonight, or from members of the board.
Supervisor, if I may, following on your question on the fiber, I'm still a little bothered by that. I mean, obviously, we've pointed to Moore's Law for the continuing improvement of technology to get to the 100 megs and the copper. 100 megs is not, it's higher than what people typically have now.
In Rochester.
In the Rochester area, but, you know, that's a pretty poor number in general, given the higher amount of services as more things are driven online. So I'm still concerned of the reliance on the copper is kind of more of, is really talking more about the.
It's a legacy
no
system.
No other fiber build out really is not currently in the schedule.
Our expansion will be fiber-based as we build out from there, but to replace systems that we have that are proven to be effectively used at 100 meg and for most residents. Now, for businesses, we have a lot of other options. We have T1 lines. We have a lot of other options out there in our arsenal, but for the residential package, 100 meg is still a lot of capacity. I mean, this is a system that probably we're thinking about 20 meg will deal with the TV and all the additional products that are being used in the home and served adequately.
And things well. And that was my other question is, so out of that 100 meg, so the Vantage product is going to consume X amount of that, with the rest of that bandwidth being allocated to, if somebody is bundled, so that 100 megs is divided 3 ways?
So yes, essentially it is. But you need 12 meg for the Vantage TV product to work superbly.
Okay, so, all right, that's
Yeah,
what I was
so
going to
that's, it's not just barely working, it is working, and we've been testing it out and
I just want to say that, and it's about a 3 meg per set box is what it requires.
per set-top box.
Per set-top box.
Right.
Okay. Oh, and and I'd forgotten to write that down. That passed my head at one point too. So the set-top
So you only need about
required
3 meg per set-top
TV.
box. So if you-
Set-top per TV.
I'm sorry?
Set-top required per TV
Yes.
Yes.
is okay. And then lost my other point. Yeah, I'm just, again, the splitting that, but that 100 megs. So how much, again, if you're talking about a bundled customer with all 3, would the phone line continue to be the traditional landline, or is it a over-the-net based product like the competitor does?
It could be both.
Could be either. So if they had, so for example, who've never had landline service to my home, I switched to a product with all 3. So there's 12 to television. How much to telephone?
It's very little.
It's pretty small.
Minimal.
So you're 80.
I could
80 odd
simplify
megs.
this. I think he wants to know: can he watch the EPL and game online at the same time? That's what he wants to know.
Well, yeah, so the question then becomes, how many people do you have on their lines watching Netflix and other devices?
Well, it is.
Right.
100 meg is more than adequate to probably have a family of 12 all watching something with all the stuff
Well,
going
you
on.
said that, but I mean, since your competitor has gone over to an all-digital system, I mean, their compression, there's a distinct quality drop-off since they've switched from their analog channels to their digital channels. I mean, I've noticed a distinct change, and it's not a change for the better.
And so
they're pushing more. They're talking about how they've pushed more through the pipe by doing the switching back and forth. I forget. You're getting it when asked.
So it's
not coming through the pipe all the time. I forget the exact
Asymmetrical.
phrasing of that. But so I mean, they're squeezing more out of their wires, and I mean, it definitely has been. Granted, it's a competitive product, but that's where I'm concerned with this. This 100 megs. It sounds like a lot because I'm guessing nobody in town gets that. But again, in the grand scheme of things, and as time moves forward,
Other
going to
than
be consuming that, I mean, we consume that in a.
We don't know
in a
that the
through
hard-
green
technology-
light, people get that.
Yeah, and they're very pleased with it, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're not going to stand still. I mean, we can't afford to stand still. And as I said a few minutes ago, 5 years ago, no one would have thought that you could get 100 meg on a copper line.
And who knows, in
And-
5 years, we might be able to get 5 gig. I mean, the industry is changing so fast right now. It's crazy to try and keep up with it.
Yeah.
You know, what we installed a couple years ago is already out of date, and we're upgrading that equipment. So that's the way it is.
Right.
And as Steve said before, 5 years ago, we couldn't even have been in this game. So we bought this. This is a product that we bought Connecticut. We bought from AT&T. We bought the UVerge product. Again, Connecticut currently is using the very same product very successfully with good results, using both fiber and copper.
Right. And I don't mean to be critical of the thing. I'm saying I'm worried about that. I mean, obviously we strive to increase those speeds, but we're already nationally really underserved speed-wise
But I guess we
compared
could
to
make
the
the
rest of
same
the
argument
world.
about roads. Everyone would love to have 6-lane roads everywhere. It's just sometimes you use the capacity you have. 'Cause sometimes at peak hour, they bunch up a little bit. For the most part of the day, it's more than adequate. So
Right.
I think it's very similar.
Okay. And then the television, the Vantage product is separate use-wise from internet? So if I don't know, and I apologize when I stepped out, again, this is more of an internet-based, might
It
walk
is-
in that
it
line
is-
a
it
little
is.
bit as far as talked all about data caps.
It is, we don't have data caps.
Okay.
Yeah, our competitor may, other competitors have, we don't have data caps. So back to your question, it's an internet-based product. It's an IPTV.
Oh, no,
So
right.
it's using the internet, for example, to bring Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu.
Oh, right, yeah, no, I understand that. I guess it was more of the question, and I'm glad to hear the statement on data caps. I mean, I think that's important, because again, as more and more services are moving online, it's a lot of, people say that it was, more people are getting pushed to use online products, and then everybody's just waiting for the other shoe to drop and say, all right, well, now that you're hooked, here's the cap. So I'm very excited to hear that you're not talking about that. I think that's very important. So that's where I was going with that. I mean, that's fine. And then my last question is on the personal note. You're talking about set-top boxes. Do you have any, as a longtime TiVo devotee, do you have any sort of cable card equivalent that would allow me to continue with my TiVo service?
I will find out from our team if that's the case. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Thanks.
When you talk about the movability of the set-top box, that's because the signal is being broadcast just over all of the phone lines that are in your house?
Your first box has to be wired in. So your first box with your main TV is wired in. You can have 3 additional that are Wi-Fi then.
That's all
Then
part of the
there's no
package then?
wire, for the other 3, there's no wires required. The first one, there is wire required to the box. But as Steve said before, the other 3 you can have in your bedroom. You can pick up and go have a Buffalo Bill showing in your garage. We were asked the other day if somebody could use it in their motorhome as they go to California. I'm not sure that's going to work, but it allows flexibility with those up to 3 other set boxes and how you move them around your house. No wiring required.
Is there a fee for each box?
You can have up to 4 boxes,
For one fee?
depending on how many for 4 TVs.
But you pay per TV or per box?
I believe the first one is part of the package, and then the other ones are subsequent fees.
And you have to use the dedicated Frontier box? You can't buy a third-party vendor and own your own box?
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, initially it would be our box, but
But remember, with that also, you're going to be able to tape up to 6 shows. You'll be able to provide the other features that come along with it.
yeah, the box does allow you to record 6 shows at the same time, up to 370 hours of programming. I know it's odd, but in many households, there's that competition to record.
I never figured out how to do it, so
Really pretty easy with the new technology.
But again, there's that competition, and here you'll have the ability to record up to 6 shows.
Are there any other
Thanks.
questions, either from members of the board, staff, or members of the audience? Is there anything more that either one of you would like to
I just want to hit a
Share
couple
with
things.
us.
We've hit on a number of things I typically do in closing. I want to first of all thank you for the time you've given us tonight. We appreciate the comments and questions you've asked us. They're very helpful to us. So we think that, you know, the incumbent has in every community, and we've had probably 15 public hearings in New York South in this market. Very typically, the letter has arrived the night before. It's a very typical letter that they've given. So we're not afraid of that. We know the build-out issue is critical. We know it's critical to us. We would love to build out, but we're going to have to do it in a planned manner. So again, ultimately, the PSC, I think, is really going to be the arbiter. They're going to look at this and have a real hard look at how that works. One of the other issues they raise is about a level playing field. And really, the law requires a level playing fields because whatever PEG fees you pay them, whatever franchise fees you pay them. What I find interesting, they've had a very uneven playing field for 30 years. And I don't think they've done all their customers great service along the way in doing that. So we would like recognition for that. The other thing that we like to remind people is Frontier, Rochester Telephone, has a very long history in this community. We go back to being a 19th century telephone company, a 20th century internet company, and I think we have examples of companies in this community that weren't able to make transition from what their legacy product is into the 21st century. Here we are proposing that transition into becoming really that full-fledged 21st century telecommunications company. We need your help to get there. We need these franchise agreements to be able to provide product. That's a benefit to us. Our return is we think we provide competition and choice to your residents. So we thank you. We do request that you close the public hearing. I would like to just ask for 10 days. If you do that in consideration, we would appreciate that.
Thank you, Bill. Then I'm going to declare this public hearing to be closed, subject to a 10-day opportunity to submit answers to these questions that remain outstanding, to submit any other written comments to us, and we will also inform Charter through the, I guess, through the address of the Director of Governmental Affairs that we've heard from here, to advise them as well that they will have a 10-day period to submit any further information relating to this matter. But subject to that, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and I thank you all for coming in tonight.
Thank you very much.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Mr. Attorney?
Hi.
Hi.
Moved on to the next thing. Get ready for the next thing.
May we get a copy of the letter that Charter sent you, just to make sure it's the same letter that we've seen?
Absolutely. Yeah, it should be part of.
In fact, why don't I'll give them my copy
Sure.
right now. We have
Great,
have
thank you very
more.
much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming in. Thanks.
Will you drop seat?
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will continue now with the rest of our agenda tonight. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications?
Second.
A couple things we have tonight. Chief Henderson has shared with us the news that our longtime investigator, Kevin Dennis, is going to be retiring effective as of the end of this month. Share your thoughts about Kevin,
Actually,
if you would.
effective tomorrow. Kevin has been with us for 26 years. He's worked on a number of high-profile cases. He's received numerous commendations for his work. One of the things that Kevin is noted for is his interaction with the victims. He is leaving the employment of the town of Brighton, retiring, and will be working with the district attorney's office. We're going to miss him. He's going to be hard to replace, and we're going through a period of change, and we'll see. But Kevin has been a true advocate, victims advocate, and a true, he's been committed to the town, and he's going to be sorely missed.
Yeah, he will. You know, Kevin is one of those guys you can talk to, down to earth, but you're right, very passionate about the work he does. I'm sure in the DA's office he'll be able to, you know, continue to bring that passion to bear. But yeah, I think the whole community will miss him. I know I will. It's been great. It's been great working with him for a lot of years. We also have communication from Ramsey Boehner indicating that property located at 363 Penfield Road has been designated as a landmark by the Historic Preservation Commission. We have a report from the U.S. Conference of Mayors Business Council relating to best practices. I think we've only got the transmittal letter here, but it comes with quite an extensive volume of materials on case studies that other communities have used to address problems. Most of them are larger than Brighton, not all of them. I've read some, but not all of these case studies, but some interesting ideas on how other communities are dealing with significant issues of the day. And so I'm going to keep reading, and we'll see if we've got something that helps. The last letter I want to read. Last meeting, I talked, you could maybe use the word rant, about traffic safety and the concern that I had with drivers as I look out the window here, walk along Elmwood Avenue, walk along some of our other major highways, major arterial streets in the town, and I see how fast people are driving. We have the solar meter out here that tells you how fast you're driving, and people persist in driving at 45 and 50 and plus on a 35-mile-an-hour street, weaving in and out of traffic. I also see pedestrians that are not following safe practices here. But I'm an adult. I thought Mr. Irway's letter would be particularly powerful, so I'm going to read it. Dear Mr. Maley, my name is Jameson Irway. Jameson, thank you for writing this letter, by the way. I am 12 years old and I live on Chelmsford Road. In the past, I have witnessed 2 car accidents and 2 children getting hit by cars at 12 corners. Also, this does not just affect 12 corners. It also affects the surrounding area. However, very recently, on September 7th, my best friend Matt was hit by a car. Luckily, Matt did not have life-threatening injuries. He broke his left leg and was hospitalized, but discharged soon after. Unfortunately, he will not be able to play football for a while. He also plays lacrosse, but by the beginning of the season, he should be able to play. Therefore, I think this is a problem that needs to be fixed, and I have a couple of ideas. First, there should be cameras at every traffic light. This would help show if someone blew a red light. Matt got hit by a car because the person ran through a red light. Second, there should be crossing guards at the crosswalks for a longer period of time. As far as I know, I'm homeschooled, so I'm not sure about the exact time. The crossing guards are only there for about 30 minutes, and sports practice isn't over until about 5 o'clock. School is usually over before 3, so it's almost like ignoring kids in sports. Thank you for considering this. If you would like to reply, you can email me, and he gives me his email address. I check my email about 3 times a day. Thank you again, and please reply soon. Well, Jameson, I will reply in writing, but I wanted, and I don't know whether you're watching tonight, but maybe at school tomorrow, someone will tell you that we talked about your letter tonight in our meeting, and you'll be able to watch us. You'll be able to stream us on your computer. First, I want to address, or at least between the chief and myself, address his 2 specific questions, and I'll say a little more generically. Jameson asked about red light cameras. The city of Rochester does have some red light cameras. By state law, at this point, red light cameras are only allowed to be used in cities. Brighton is a town. We do not have the ability to install and use for enforcement purposes red light cameras. If that changes, it's a topic that has not been without controversy. There are some very passionate advocates for red light cameras, and there are some very passionate opponents of red light cameras. But for now, legally, that's not an option that we have. Your second comment, Jameson, is about crossing guards. And although the crossing guards are largely tied to the school schedule, they're actually part of the town's budget, the town's police department. So I'm going to ask Chief Henderson to talk just a little bit about what we're doing currently, how we've expanded that somewhat over
You may
time.
recall, Supervisor, we talked about this last year when I got a request from the superintendent about the times of day.
Yep.
And the impact that that would have from a fiduciary standpoint on the overall police budget if we were to increase the hours of the crossing guards. We did that. They are there till 3:30. I hear the request for 5 or 5:30. I don't know if that's something we could do with our current staff. We'd probably have to bring on additional staff. There is an initiative in New York State under the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee about pedestrian safety. I have requested information. We're going to look at implementing some programs with our current staff, the sworn staff. As far as the crossing guards, we monitor the locations. We added an additional spot to the 12 corners. That was at the request of I believe, a mother of a homeschool child. We try to coordinate, times a day. The dismissal time of the day was extended. We extended our crossing guards. So we certainly look at all options, from an operational standpoint. But I do think that if we extend it longer, it would have an impact on that aspect of our budget.
Thanks, Mark. It certainly would have a significant financial impact, and as I just got finished discussing, we do have to always balance the fiscal impacts of programming and the community impacts of programming. Judy, did you want to say something?
This is a really serious issue. Most people do stop and let pedestrians cross before they will make their turns, but that isn't always the case. But I had a thought, rather than having a crossing guard for the duration, they're there now till 3:30, could they come back at 4:45 and stay till 5:45 when traffic is really, really heavy up there and kids are crossing? It's going to be getting darker sooner. I don't know if financially that would be any sort of a savings by not having that, hour and a half covered. But it was just a thought that came, to my mind. It is really dangerous. On Sunday mornings when I go up to the market, I walk and I never know if somebody's going to cut in front of me, and make that turn. And it's relatively quiet on a Sunday morning, so just...
You and I are both walking.
Right, so just think about that, with 4 o'clock traffic and so on. So I just offer that up.
Thanks, Judy. For those of you that didn't hear my rant last time, Judy's comments are apropos. They were triggered by a situation that I had, and a local businessman here in town whose business is located on Monroe Avenue. Both of us had walked to a business in the 12 Corners area around the lunch hour to get lunch, and both of us had near misses, or in my case, not an impact not enough to knock me off my feet, but a situation where a car coming out of one of the side streets onto Elmwood obviously looked left, didn't look right to see the pedestrian, myself, and I'm a pretty, if you haven't seen me, you've probably not looked at me. He looked left because he wanted to see if there was traffic coming from that direction, and he began to roll out to make a right turn. He figured he didn't have to look right, apparently because traffic doesn't come from the right when you're making a right turn, but pedestrian traffic might. And the other gentleman, ironically enough, an insurance agent, also had a near miss. Judy, exactly the kind of situation you described, where someone made a turn in front of him. When a pedestrian, this particular person had the right of way. We talk, it seems like every meeting, about making Brighton a more pedestrian-friendly community. And one of the absolutely essential components to that is that the drivers take those pedestrians into account and follow the rules of the road. Now, mind you, pedestrians have to do the same thing, and I see pedestrians jaywalking, crossing, outside of crosswalks, and I get requests regularly for us to examine crosswalk locations. Unfortunately, a lot of them are on our state or county roads where we don't have direct control, like Elmwood, like Monroe, Winton, Penfield Road. But both of us, the driver and the pedestrian, really have to make an effort. I will say this, the driver's got several 100,000 pounds of metal and plastic and a lot of momentum build up. They can do a lot more damage with their car. Obviously, the pedestrian needs to look out for him or herself, but it's really important that our drivers pay attention to their speed. You don't have to get there 30 seconds quicker. And you don't have to listen to me. But I hope you'll all listen to 12-year-old, because he's more articulate than I'll ever be in talking about the experience of a child trying to cross a street. Listen to Jamison Irway. Please drive safely. Thanks, Jamison. Good job. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments on the communications? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Committee reports. Community services.
Bill, Community Service met on the 21st, and we have quite a number of items on the agenda. We're still working on designation of certain parks for bicycle use, and also some discussion about the width of the current trails and how difficult it is to have multiple uses of bicycling and pedestrian on them. We also talked a bit about dog waste in the parks, and please, if you take your dog in, make them carry it out too. But the baseball contract may be under review with Brighton Baseball. They've asked to have a look at it. It's an old contract, and they want to see it updated, and it's good for everybody. One thing of particular importance is our Corbett's Glen and the status of formulating a committee there to oversee the use of that park. It's a beautiful place, and boy, does everybody appreciate it. It's got a tremendous volume of use, and we've got to see what is necessary, what are necessary restrictions, so that we maintain it just in the pristine shape it deserves to be in. But it has to do with issues about swimming and fishing there, and bicycle use, and the use of the trails and how much they're wearing out, and the chips
And
are
parking.
being. But the big
And
one is
traffic.
parking, because it's not readily accessible. We don't have a lot of parking there. But we are trying to restrict the vehicles from going down past the bend and the turnaround at all. And we are going to enhance our signage down there. I know, Tim, you've got a couple of signs that you're putting up there yet, which is essentially say, this means you don't drive any further, turn around here. But we've got folks that just are not respecting the neighbors down there, who have been very, very patient and cooperative. So please, don't drive past the bend. But there's all sorts of folks going down there.
And the reason not to drive past the bend is there is no parking.
There's no parking down there, and there's no place to turn around.
There's, other than someone's driveway, and frankly, the volume of people, and you've been down there, I've been down there, and I think everybody here on the board has been down there, particularly on holidays, to see the volume of people coming in, turning around, And when you match that with, again, the pedestrians, I'm a broken record here tonight, but again, we're talking about pedestrians and traffic, we're talking about their safety, but we're talking about the impact as well on the folks that live down there on Glen Road.
But the success of that park perhaps it could kill it, and we want to make certain that's not going to be the case. So we're formulating a committee to have a hard look at that and see what best practices will be. We're looking at refuse cans along Monroe Avenue, and it's, you know, did I think I was ever going to get involved in that level of town service when I took this job? But yes, but Dan Amon did a terrific job going up and down Monroe Avenue, looking at the condition of the refuse cans and the park benches along there, and they need some help. And also, particularly at the bus stops, they're heavily used, and somebody's putting out garbage cans, and they're emptying them too. I know the one right at 12 Corners here at the bus stop, oddly, is let's call it an informal can. Someone put it up there, and when I saw it on a Monday or Sunday, it was overflowing. Now it's empty again. I don't know who's emptying it, but I don't think it's on the regular.
RTS does the ones in the shelters.
RTS did that? Well,
They're their
good
cans.
for them, because they're getting heavily used. So we're looking at that. And we're going to take a look, and perhaps we can get some corporate sponsors, some business sponsors of some garbage cans and refuse cans along the avenue there. We're looking at the park law in general. We've looked at invasive species in both the nature park, the Sandy Frankel Nature Park, and down at Corbett's Glen. And I think Matt Bayman's got a good handle on that as well. We looked at issues about trail location markers, and for folks that are having difficulty, if there's some emergency, is it possible to locate them within the Glen or on the Brickyard Trail or elsewhere? And that's going to be looked at. I believe it should be an issue, Louise, perhaps on your Public Safety Committee agenda upcoming. RG&E tree trimming was discussed, and maintenance of the town hall campus as well. The item that I have the most fun with is the traffic control painting project. I just got a call today from the county DOT that said they had approved our locations, and if she could just tackle an engineer, we would have all approvals tomorrow for 3 new boxes to be painted. So I'm very pleased to hear that. And we're trying to broaden those locations as well. I've sent a letter off to Rush Henrietta schools, and have not gotten a response yet. But also, we're looking to Mercy and McQuaid to see if they'd also like to participate.
MCC.
And MCC, excuse me, yes, thanks, Bill. Because we're trying to broaden the participation in this project. So far, we've got 2 boxes, both by Brighton High School students already. 2 others will be by Brighton High School students, but I'm very pleased that the gal from the Carroll, Carol Kenyon from the Baptist Temple, a very talented artist there, came forward and asked if they couldn't decorate the box right out front of the temple at the corner of Clover and Highland. So we shuffled some designs around, and so they're going to be able to do a design too. So
that's wonderful.
Our meetings go on at great length, but the things that I asked Becky to please give me information about upcoming events. And registration for fall programs have begun. They're accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. You can register online, and please do so. The classes have started. Brochures have gone out. If you don't have your brochure, just go to townofbrighton.org/rec, and you can see them as well. We've got a couple of special events coming up, which are probably the most fun ones of the year. On the 22nd, we've got the Fall Family Festival and the Halloween Happy House, etc. Upcoming, I believe the Haunted House is on the 28th. I think Farmer Bill will make an appearance on the 22nd. Is that correct, Bill?
That's what he has told me.
All right. And
he'll be leading the kids parade again before the activities kick off.
Is it always the same shirt and the same hat, Bill? That's the real question.
You'll have to ask Farmer Bill that question. The hat sure looks the same, though.
It does, yeah. On Friday, though, October 14th, is the Boomer Dance. I know, Bill, that's one of your favorite
Love
events.
the Boomer Dance.
You're a lot older than I am, maybe. but.
Maybe.
That's usually oversubscribed. The tickets are $10, so get your tickets. It's a great event. And our next meeting will be October 19th at 9:30 over at Brookside School.
And the other thing, thank you, Chris. It's a great report. A lot of stuff going on your committee. I appreciate, the breadth of what you're doing. We've talked, and I know Becky has also spoken with Carolyn Rabideau at the school district about working on some of these programs for kids with sensory issues, such as kids on the autism spectrum. And some of these activities, we are going to be scheduling parallel activities that are not as intensive from a sensory perspective. So if there are folks out there that have shied away from particularly some of these, the October activities, which have pretty big crowds, and particularly in the case of the haunted house at Buckland, can be a little scary, for the youngest kids as well. But I would encourage you to reach out to the recreation department, and Becky can get you information on some alternate programming that we are going to make available for the first time this year. And I really appreciate Becky having responded to what is a very real need in the community. That's something at a recent meeting of the State Association of Towns, I learned that one of the county executives in, I don't want to mess up the county, I think it's Orange County though, down in that region, has been working very actively on programming in various areas to be more accessible to particularly children on the autism spectrum, but in general, kids with sensory issues. And I think that's a great model for us to look at in partnership, certainly with the Brighton Central School District, perhaps with some of our other school districts. So this Halloween, we'll have an opportunity to do some of that. If that's a need, please reach out to the rec department, speak with Becky, and she'll update you on all of that information.
Great, Bill.
Thank you, Chris. Jason, Finance Committee.
Yes, Bill, Finance met last Tuesday, September 20th. Each of the items that we discussed appear on tonight's agenda. One of the items that we did discuss in further detail was the bid award for the mowing and field maintenance services contract for the remainder of 2016, and the contracts provided for an option to renew in 2017. However, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee decided that we would bring this back early next year, perhaps in February, to review again to see if we wanted to send it out for another bid next year.
And the action that you'll have before you tonight is only for the rest of this year.
That's correct, and that appears later on the agenda, yes. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, October 4th. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Room, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks, Jason. Public Safety, Louise.
Public Safety has not met since the last town board meeting. Next meeting is October 11th at 8 in the morning in our downstairs meeting room. Just want to remind everybody about the prescription take-back, which is going to be on October the 22nd from 10 to 2. And the shredding and electronics will be October 5th from 9 to 12.
And the pharmaceutical take-back will be right here in Town Hall on the Public Safety wing of the building, the right side of the building as you face Town Hall.
Right.
And the document shredding and electronics recycling will be, as always, at the Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue, about a quarter-mile down the street.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise, for organizing those, and thank you for your report. Jim is not here tonight.
Public Works, it meets once a month. I'm the assistant chair. And the next meeting will be October 5th at 9 o'clock. That is a Wednesday. We've moved it from the typical Tuesday to avoid the Jewish holidays. But the public isn't invited to attend, and that's a very important group as well. So come and give us your input. Wednesday, October the 5th, 9 o'clock in the downstairs meeting room.
Thank you, Chris. New business, reading and approval of the claims. Jason?
Yes, Bill, earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $452,245.74. Notable claims include to super seal coating in the amount of $19,100 for resurfacing the tennis court at Meridian Center Park. Also to Birchcrest Landscaping in the amount of $4,000 for wood chips for park trails. To MVP Healthcare, representing October premiums for active employees and under 65 retirees and certain over 65 retirees in the amount of $243,694.62. The last notable claim that I came across was to Andrew Osborne, and that was in the amount of $346.50, and that was to run the Young Scientists Summer Youth Program through our rec department. And that, of course, was reimbursed through program participant fees. The claims appeared to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Bill, the next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Rochester Monroe County Youth Bureau to support the youth program funding requirements for 2016. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
This is an annual program. It's a program I know, Louise, you've been closely tied with. It's a great program. And
Funded by the county?
Funded by the county. Yes. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Next matter, Louise.
The next matter is approval to appoint a particular person as a member of the Board of Assessment Review effective immediately through September 30th, 2021. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town. The person is
William Beyerbach.
Yes, right.
And Elaine and I interviewed him. Very, very strong credentials in real estate in general, and certainly from an appraisal perspective, and seemed like someone who worked well with people, communicated well, and we had a good discussion with him, and we both recommend him for this appointment.
These are the people that, when people are
Challenging their the valuation of their property. And in particular, and we had our former member who was particularly strong with commercial properties, and Mr. Beyerbach does have experience in the valuation of commercial property, so it was a great fit. So Luis has made that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Lives in East Brighton. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Bill, the next three items deal with the authorization to bid award and the supervisor to execute an agreement with the lowest responsible bidder, which is Woodgate Landscaping INC, for three different contracts as put out to bid. They relate both to the town parks and ball fields, the town cul-de-sacs, and the town public right-of-ways and property maintenance code matters.
All for mowing services.
All for mowing services. Did I not specify that? Thank you, Ken. And I move that we adopt the resolutions as prepared by the attorney for the town with respect to these three contracts.
Second.
Ken, do you have a problem with doing all three of them individually? Unless anybody has an objection, we have a motion from Chris and a second by Jason. I do want to note that the agenda talks about renewal in 2017. I know that agenda was prepared before the Finance Committee directed that only 16 be considered, and these resolutions each
only specify
are limited to 2016 only. They do not authorize mowing in 2017, and that is something we'll take up again through the Finance Committee either late this year or very early next year, so we give Tim time to to get a bid out and make sure we get a good response. The bids did come in higher than we would have liked, and we're going to have to talk about whether that reflected something extraneous or, whether we think we can do better. But we have a motion to do all three of those.
And I have no problem with that.
Thank you. Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Did we have a second? I'm sorry.
Jason did, yeah.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, Bill, the next matter seeks to amend the agreement with Stantec with approval to transact any needed budget adjustments to support additional reimbursable services relating to the project known as Whole Foods Plaza. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
2 meetings ago, the town board directed the developer of the Whole Foods Plaza project, the Daniele family of companies, to prepare a supplemental draft environmental impact statement to take into account new information that had been received relating to traffic conditions and traffic signal timing on Monroe Avenue, and also to address comments that had been received relating to the initial draft environmental impact statement. We have used Stantec as our consultant. Our expenses, as we do with any significant project like this, our consultants' expenses are reimbursed by the developer of the project. With this additional service that's going to be required, the review of this new supplemental draft environmental impact statement and this new traffic study that the developer will have to prepare as part of the preparation, we're going to need additional services from Stantec. So this contract amendment is based upon our expected level of additional services required. I know as of the day of the Finance Committee, we still had some money left over in our original contract, but clearly not enough to cover the services we're going to continue to need for this environmental review. So that's the reason for this proposal. And we have a motion and a second. Further comment? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to adopt refunding bond resolution to support advance refunding of particular bonds. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by bond counsel to the town.
Second.
And this is a matter that was discussed just tonight, actually during the budget presentation. Our bonds that were issued in 2007, which bear interest at a rate that's significantly above current market levels. We are proposing, they are not callable in bond market parlance, which means we can't refinance them the way you would refinance your home. But what we can do is use a process known as advanced refunding, under which we would issue bonds that would generate sufficient proceeds for us to pay the bonds off in full together with any accrued interest on the first day that they can be refunded, which would be next year. And those new bonds that we would be issuing would, based on current market conditions, carry a significantly lower interest rate. And therefore, even net of the issuance costs of those new bonds, we would save significant money on interest over the remaining term of the bond. So that's what we're proposing to do here, as you heard Suzanne say. Next year, we expect it will save us approximately $20,000 in interest expenses. We don't know exactly because those bonds haven't been issued yet. We don't know what rate they'll be at. But over the life of the bonds, they should save us over $100,000. So we have a motion and a second. Bond counsel has prepared that. Any further comments? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Louise?
The next matter seeks approval to declare 2 particular police vehicles that are no longer serviceable based on their current value and condition as surplus and authorize their disposal through municipal auction. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Further discussions? Mark, I know this is part of your plan.
Our last
Chris?
Crown Vic, is that it?
I believe that's the end of a legacy. All the cars are in excess of 100,000, and we have increased our miles, and we think the one Chevy product should bring a pretty good return at auction, so we'll find out Saturday.
Good. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, I just want to comment on the work that some parents and other community members are doing with respect to an ongoing funding issue for the Brighton Central School District. It was determined last year, late in the state budget cycle, that due to some systemic freezes that had been put on school funding, accompanied by some changes in growth and demographics in the Brighton Central School District, we had been hit really harder than basically almost any school district in the state by the impact of these freezes. And therefore, under a funding system from the state, we were, the Brighton Central School District was receiving far less money than the formula suggested they should, a lower percentage than other school districts in the area. This year, that group is working proactively right now, reaching out to the governor to seek to encourage the governor to make changes in that formula so that the Brighton Central School District will be treated more fairly. Obviously, that's important because the less the state funds us, the more taxpayers here in Brighton, in the Brighton Central School District, have to pay to maintain, again, the level of school services that we've come to expect. Again, it's that challenge of providing services in a world of limited financial resources. Claire McLaughlin, in particular, has been leader of that group, but there are others, and I would encourage you to go to their Facebook page, and they have forms for letters to the governor. They're asking people to write the governor, personalize it, maybe with information about your child or grandchild or your own connection to the school district, to ask the governor to further support, to make changes to the governor's budget that will make sure that the Brighton Central School District is equitably treated. I think this is a simple matter of fairness. Obviously, we have, I believe, the finest school district, not only in the Rochester area, but probably in the state of New York. And we have a diverse student body, diverse racially, ethnically, socioeconomically, and sometimes that's not as well understood. So it's important that funding reflect the special needs and the need to maintain the high quality of the Brighton Central School District. So I encourage folks to write that letter to the governor, and hopefully we'll see the results of that effort. That's all I have. Matters of the attorney to the town.
Two things, very quickly. One, just sending out my best wishes to Councilman Vogel. We miss you, and hope you're back with us well soon. And on a related matter, all of the resolutions that indicate that Councilman Vogel is present should be modified to indicate that he is actually absent. That's it. So Jim, get better, come back.
Matters of the board.
Just wanted to bring up that yesterday I attended a meeting of the Envision Brighton, the Comprehensive Plan Update Steering Committee. We met at 7:30 in the morning yesterday to discuss next steps. The primary focus of the meeting was to go over the draft vision and policy framework, and then essentially receive comments from the steering committee regarding the statements of the purpose and the vision as far as moving forward. Next steps will be another meeting of the steering committee, probably in about 6 weeks. Next steps will also include a land use working session, implementation actions, and then also meetings to review the land use plan and implementation actions. Also to review a sustainability matrix because we are receiving NYSERDA funding. The focus of the comp plan needs to have an eye towards sustainability.
As we were discussing earlier this evening with our intern.
In fact, Erin Ryan is a member of the steering committee, and she brings her experience from the SOC also to the steering committee. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on that's moving forward.
Very good. Thank you. Any other matters of the board? We have nothing more. I just want to, just a couple things. One, our next meeting will be held on October 13th, which is a Thursday, to avoid the conflict with Yom Kippur. And we will not meet before Rosh Hashanah. So I want to wish everyone out there celebrating Rosh Hashanah a very happy new year. And yes, Dan. Taxes. Oh, did I skip the town clerk? Sorry. Sorry.
I used all my words tonight. I apologize. No, just real briefly, obviously the due date of October 1st for school taxes is coming up on Saturday. Since we're not open on Saturdays, that typically goes forward to the next business day, so folks can come in on Monday and still make that as a timely payment. Unfortunately, this year, for many folks, that is the start of Rosh Hashanah, and they will not obviously be able to do that. Unfortunately, under tax law, cannot extend it out further beyond that, regrettably, so we'd want to make sure folks keep that in mind and come in Friday. Tax signs are already up waiting for you, reserving parking spots, so we're ready to help you out.
Postmark?
Postmark, yes, postmark by Saturday. We've had a larger number than usual issues with USPS this year. Unfortunately, I don't know if folks have experienced that in their own lives. Obviously, with the volume I'm dealing with, I see a lot more, so it's harder to tell. You know, we always tell people, you know, we love to see you in the office. Come on in, make the payments in person. May not necessarily be the most convenient, but you know you'll be greeted with a smile, and you leave with a paid stamp, knowing your payment is timely. So
It's an opportunity. A lot of times, people will come down to my office or to the assessor's office, and they're able to address, you know, multiple matters, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just put again out my request out to everyone when you come in to make your tax payment, bring a can or two for the food cupboard in the collection box in the lobby there. Again, I'm still looking to work with the food cupboard to expand that in the future, but this is kind of a shoestring effort this cycle. But you know, bring a can of food for somebody who's in some need.
Good. Anything else? Again, Shana Tova, Happy New Year to everyone, and can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Good night, and we'll see you on October 13th, Thursday night. Have a good evening.